Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
So yeah, I talked to Michael Curtis about
who else?
How many groups there are?
There's like almost over 100, I think now.
Yeah, well,
75 to 100.
And I said, well, don't you think we're starting to cannibalize talent? We're cannibalizing audiences. We're cannibalizing, dollars. And he said, no, they can never have enough groups. But
see, the thing is that what's happening is that people, and that's fine. I mean, people do a show, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, I can do this. I can produce and direct and do my own show. And what happens is when they get to the point where they get sick of putting their own money in, that's when they're like, it's easier. Because honestly, people say, could you do it all over again? I said, I wouldn't start my own company. If I did it today, never would have, because you can have so much more fun being at someone else's company.
Yeah.
And it's a hard work. It's a lot of work to do, and it's so you get to the point where it's like, I'm supportive. I mean, I think the more the merrier. It's great. Oh, hi.
No, just wait.
Okay. I think it's great. It's just one of those things where there's just so many now that, like you said, it's hard. We're all sharing the same actors. Nobody has a home theater anymore.
Yeah.
Where it used to be, if you were a Concord Community Players person, you were a players person.
Yeah.
And now it's the point where those of us who, I consider myself a players person, but only like every 5 or 6 years when I can zip away to do a part, and a show that I really want to do.
It's almost like professional athletes, right? Where there's no loyalty, they trade them, free agency comes up. We're talking with Rob Dionne from Majestic Theatre. Hi, Rob. Welcome.
Hi.
Glad to have you. We jumped in the middle of the conversation.
Yeah, we just jump in, didn't we?
That's the way I like it.
That's unscripted. Just make it happen.
Exactly.
I didn't bring any papers.
Yeah, really?
I'm so used to not having any papers with notes. I'm like, nope, this is unscripted. We're just going to do our thing.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We are, actually. Yeah. So we were just talking about, we jumped in the conversation here about the talent pool and the number of groups that have popped up all of a sudden. There's more groups out there right now. There's names that I look at and I go, who the hell is that? I don't even get... Where are these people?
So that was one of the reasons why it's like, we're not part of New Hampshire Theatre Awards right now. We're just taking a break. We just realized that we had to put our energy in a different direction. But I liked when I was an adjudicator for the Theatre Awards, again, one more thing to do. But it got me to companies I never get to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I've never heard of these little companies up again. And I saw some great stuff over the years as an adjudicator. I'm like, wow. And it's actually, there's shows that I picked for my season later because I saw them up north or, in Peterborough or wherever. I'm like, okay, that's a really good show. I really like that show. So it's been great for that. But there's so much now that it's just, it's tough. And this next season, we're actually producing 15 shows in 10 months.
What?
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
And why?
Well, because the thing is that we're running 3 venues now. So we have the Ditter Theater shows, January, February, March, April at the Executive Court. We use the Derry Opera House for a bunch of the bigger shows. And now we have the new Studio Theater, which you were at.
Yeah.
So what we've done is that we've had people saying, some of our older patrons that have grown up with us are at the point where they don't want to go to Derry. They're like, we love you, but we really don't want to go to Derry. Because they figure Derry might as well be Tewksbury, Mass. And I get that. I drive everywhere, so
it's exit 7 to exit 4.
Right, and that's what it is. So we put more shows in the Studio Theater this coming year, and we're running all the Studio Theater shows for 2 weekends this year. So it's it's good, and I see us kind of. It's hard because it's like we're going to use the Studio Theater more, but it's like we're already maxed. Just you were in a show, the max of rehearsals and tripping over each other, and the bigger youth and teen shows have to be at the Derry Opera House.
So logistically, how do you do that? 10 shows,
very creative
shows
scheduling. It's very creative scheduling. So we have people on. We're always on repertory with 3, sometimes 4 shows. Like right now, we're working on James and the Giant Peach and Addams Family Jr. School Edition. And then Elf Jr., not Elf Jr., Elf, the big musical. We're the first ones to do the full musical in Community Theatre in New Hampshire. So we just cast that, so that starts rehearsal. And then and the good thing is that, Jim probably told you we're doing Judy's Scary Little Christmas this year.
You hadn't said that. No,
which is great.
Yeah.
It's only been done one other time. It's a show that Jim had written back when he was in L.A. And it has only been done, I believe, once in New Hampshire, which was at Madco. It was the last show that Music and Drama Company in Derry did at the Court Street Theatre billions of years ago. And we're doing it this year. We're doing 2 Christmas shows, one at the Studio Theatre, one at the Derry Opera House. So the good thing is that show doesn't start until after the kid shows are done. So what we do is which are, normally you get like that 8 to 10 week process. We're thinking more of like a 6 to 8 week process.
Yes.
And what we do is we
even
make
for
sure,
a musical.
Even for a musical, because
Okay.
what we do is we make sure that we allow they get like 1 or 2 big days in the theater space, and then they have other days in the smaller rehearsal rooms. So it actually does work. But if we were able to get more space, as much as it's a little bit of a headache to have a higher rent, I'd probably take more space.
Yeah, so you'd move out of the...
We would just if the gym were to move out next door,
Right,
which I mean,
right.
Steve's a great guy. He's the owner of the gym, and his business is thriving. He's doing a great job there. So if they were ever to downsize,
There's a lot of us fat people out there.
well,
so.
yeah, of course. Well, that's CrossFit though, so it's like pick
I
up big
get-
things and put them down.
Yeah,
And,
tires and all that.
all the tires and but it's it's one of those things where if they were to take less space, or if they were to move into a bigger location, which could happen. I mean, they're growing. Then we would probably take more space off the back of the theater, just to grab us some more space. Honestly, if I could afford it, I'd take the whole building, but I don't really want a $10,000 a month rent plus utilities. I mean, if you told me even 5 years ago we'd be paying, our overhead would be what it is now, I would just laugh at you and say it's just not going to be possible. Well, luckily we've had some, studio theaters really helped us just elevate, and be able to add more events that we're not renting a theater for and stuff like that. So, I think this year is going to be, and this is our 29th year. Next year's our 30th anniversary season.
My God.
I know already.
30
I can't get
years?
it. 30 years next year, yeah.
Okay, so let's take a deep breath. That was a great introduction.
Yes. So that's what I'm doing for 30 years. What are you doing for 30 years?
Yeah. Wow. So let's start in the early days.
Okay.
So let's talk about you. Are you a New Hampshire native resident? Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you start in this business? High school, junior high, college?
So what happened was I was in the folk group at St. Marie Church. It's just kind of funny how things all come full circle. I was in the folk group at St. Marie Church, and our music director at the time, Dionne Murphy, who I still talk to, who just moved back a couple years ago, he said, I'm doing this show at Milford Area Senior High School, which I think is now called Milford High School because Amherst built their own school. But anyway, so he was doing a show called Something's Afoot, and I was a flute player back then. And he says, come and play in the pit for this thing. I was in 1985. I was in 8th grade. And I said, sure, I'll do it. So I went and played this show and absolutely just loved it. Loved doing it. So when I went to college for music, I ended up doing some theater then and all that. And then in 1991, fast forward to I graduated in 89. 1990, I started writing musicals. And I was like, Writing them. I had written this big musical called School Days. It's a fun little show. And so it was the summer of 1991, we decided, you know what, we're going to get a bunch of friends together, people I'd gone to high school with, myself, Matt Morin, who's still with us, Derek Lucci, Craig Olson, and Ruthie Stevenson, and we would all, let's just put this show on. So we put this show on at West High School. And what ended up happening was, so then I wrote another full-length one called Moon Over the Day for the next year. And that's one show I wish I could get 10 minutes just to sit down and start reworking that, because it's it could be a really decent show if I reworked it. Haven't done it. That was 92. So I have people out there. So we ended up doing original shows. So after doing a couple of years of that and writing a couple of children's musicals, I realized that I can't keep turning these out and go to college and all this stuff. So we started doing some other musicals that are out there. Every summer at West High School, starting 91 through 94, we did summer shows. We did Something's Afoot, which was probably the first non Rob Dionne show that I'd written, which is also the first show that I had ever done. We did that one. We did Man of La Mancha one year. And then after, what happened in 94 was, I've had more theater heartbreaks, I think, than I've had relationship heartbreaks over my years. Because in 94 we kind of the city of Manchester did this big regrouping thing with the schools, and they privatized all the janitors, and we couldn't be there anymore in the summers. It just wasn't going to work. They weren't allowing summers to be rented, so we were stuck. So the good news was,
did your group have a name at the time?
We were still Majestic Theatre. It was actually Majestic Theatre Trust at the time. We dropped the trust later because people got really confused of, are we a grant? Do we give out grants? What do we do? So in 95, we had been rehearsing at St. Marie's for many, many years. because that was my church. And Father Mark Montmany, who was a very generous man, said, you can use our spaces to rehearse. And we were rehearsing at like St. Raphael's, living rooms, all that stuff back then. And then, so in 95, we renovated what we were at with St. Marie. Did you ever been in that theater?
No, never.
In the old St. Marie School building, which is next to St. Marie Church on the west side. And we were in that building for 17 years. Renovated the theater in there. We did all kinds of shows there. We started off as a summer thing. It used to drive Father Mark crazy because we went from a summer theater to like...
17 years you were there?
Yeah, we were in that space for 17 years. Up until 2011. And what happened was, in Manchester, because of the station nightclub fire in Rhode Island, many, many years ago, all local fire departments were starting to get stricter as far as sprinklers, stuff like that. They started with the clubs, which is why Manchester, like Uptown Tavern, all those old clubs in the Manchester, they all closed. They didn't have sprinkler systems. Then they went to the public assembly places, and then they went to the churches. And they came to a compromise with the churches. But with us, they had come to us, I want to say it was back in maybe so in 07, I think it was 07, I was on a cruise, on a Mexican Riviera cruise, and I got home, and we were working on Sound of Music at the time, and I got home to a note on my door from Matt. Before you turn your computer on, before you do anything, call me, I don't care what time it is. Like, okay. I call him, and the week, that was like the first vacation I had taken forever, and the week that I was gone, the fire department had shut the theater down.
Oh my God.
We had Sound of Music like 2 weeks later. So, long story short, we got them to give us a few more years with the idea that we were going to replace crash bars on doors and replace curtains that were flammable, all this stuff, treat things, and work towards a sprinkler system. We moved Sound of Music to the Sacred Heart Parish Hall at the church I do music at, and we did it there. And then we raised like $50,000, all volunteer labor, to put on these fire doors and all this stuff. New egress in the hallway, all this stuff.
In the 90s?
Yeah, like in 2007.
$50,000 back then?
Yeah, 2007. So then after several years of that, I kept saying to the church, and I want to make sure I'm not talking against St. Marie Church by any means. They were so good to us. But I kept saying to the church, hey, we've got, I think it was 5 years or 4 years. Oh, no, it was 3 years. I remember 3 years. And I said, we have 3 years to do the sprinkler system. Where are we at? Nope, we're good. Sadly, the person that the church was talking to at the fire department was telling them, you guys should be fine, you should be fine. Fast forward to 2010, we find out, Wolf's at the door. Fire department says, if you're going to continue doing this, you need a sprinkler system. No ifs, ands, or buts. $350,000. Because you got to put a sensor in every closet, everything, because it's such an old building. So we ended up talking the fire department into giving us 1 more year, and we finished our season. We moved out of that building in 2011 into what was then the Ted Herbert building. Your head spinning yet?
Yep.
So another theater heartbreak.
That's the one I always think about.
The saddest day was when the day that we finally left that West Side Theater. It was like, because we were always a West Side company, and it was like the saddest day when we left there, going like, shut the door for the last time. And so we moved into the Ted Herbert building, and we got that because I had known the Herberts since I was a kid. And Mark and Marlene Herbert, who owned that building we were in, where the music store was, made us a really good deal, saying, hey, move in, we'll give you the suite, and you can start. We were in that building for about 5 years. And
could you perform there?
We couldn't, but we ended up taking over more and more space. So by the time we left, we were taking over a whole floor at that point. The Herberts had just sold, the Herbert family had just sold years earlier the music store to a chain, to Music and Arts. And about 5 years later, the 2 Herbert children, Mark and Marlene, again, who were very good to us, came to us and said, a couple of years before that, like 2014-ish, said, we're retiring, we're selling the building and the music school. Mm. You want to buy the music school? And I just laughed at him. First 5 times Mark Herbert said to me, you want to buy the music school? I'm like, Mark, no money. I have no money. So anyway, so he kept bugging me. So he said, we'll make a deal for you. So they actually ended up selling us the music school in 2014, the Herbert family, after it being around for like 50 years. They sold us the music school business for a percentage of the take of the next 2 years. which was a gift. It really was a gift because the equipment that we inherited, we could have sold off everything and broke even. So they were very, very good to us. But then they ended up selling the building in like 2015 to a guy that met with us right away, and he's like, I want to keep Ed Herbert's here, Majestic Theatre here. We'll just got to work together. We'll make this happen. All this stuff. Long story short, 2016, he tells me on like an end of August, I need you guys out before the winter. I can't afford to heat the building with just you guys in it this winter. Heartbreak again. So meanwhile, when we're at Ted Herbert's, we started performing in the old Notre Dame College space. Mm-hmm. We did that for like 3 summers. We were moving everything, all the theater seats, all the tech, everything. We'd pull up a big semi because we had saved all the theater seats from St. Marie's.
Oh, my God.
They were being stored. So we'd move them in, get a crew of people. We'd move in all those theater seats, put them up, put the tech up, all this stuff. In the first year at Notre Dame College, we were given I think it was 12 weeks to do 6 weekends of shows. And then over the years, the person we dealt with left, and we dealt with a new person, and it went like this. And finally, we ended up having 7 weeks to do 6 weeks of shows the last summer. And we literally got to the end of the summer, we all looked at each other and said, we just can't do this anymore.
Wow.
So that's when we started using Derry Opera House for the bigger shows. And I love the Derry Opera House. I wish it was in downtown Manchester. Mm-hmm. So we still do our big shows there. But luckily, and we were also doing our dinner theaters that were at St. Mary's at the Chateau. So what happens to the Chateau? The Chateau is sold, and it's sold. So I'm at the point where I'm thinking, nobody's going to want Rob Dionne near them, because when they are near them, they either close their businesses or they sell the buildings. Yeah. So we ended up, which actually ended up being a good thing, because when we left the Chateau, and again, Janice and Yash Paul were very good to us over the years, we moved to the Executive Court when we really were able to elevate our dinner theaters. We still do 4 a year, January, February, March, April. Still do them, and this will be, I want to say, our 5th or 6th season there, doing them for those 4 months. And they're great there. I mean, it still moves. We move in a stage, all the tech, everything. It's a bit of a challenge.
4 times a year?
4 times a year, January, February, March, and April, first weekend of the month. And then when we left Ted Herbert's, luckily, we had a great realtor, Dave Gambaccini, he's with a new company now, but great realtor, who's like, my goal is to find you guys a new home. I'm going to do it. And we looked at all these different buildings. One building we looked at on the west side, we were like, in the basement, there was like that ring around the basement, and the landlord was like, oh no, there was never water down here. And we could smell it. We're like, no, I'm thinking. So we ended up finding, we saw the listing for the new studio theater. We saw 880 Page Street, and I kept bugging. I'm like, I saw the pictures. I'm like, because it was a church. So I'm thinking, there must be a church. There was a 4-square church in there before us, and then it was vacant for like 3 years. And so I kept, we got to see this space. We got to see this space. So eventually, after like a couple months, we see the space with the landlord, who's the greatest guy in the world. And Karen and I walked out of that space, and we looked at each other. It's like, we've got to have this. We've got to have this space. I mean, it's moving ready.
How did he not think you would want to see it originally?
Well, it's realtors talking to realtors, mm-hmm. and it was just, our realtor was pushing, and the other realtor, again, he probably had stuff going on. I don't know what the situation was, but we weren't getting much of a response from that realtor that was representing the property. And so we moved into that building. So the fall we started renovations again. I don't know how much the reservation. It was another $50 or $60 grand for the renovations. And our current landlord did a thing where he would allow us to pay back. He would front it, and we would pay him back, and he would give us 6 months of reduced rent in exchange for it.
Wow, that's really
our landlord, Jim McDowell, is a great guy. He's probably nothing against anybody else, but he's probably the best landlord we've ever had. He loves it. We're there. He's great. You call him, he's right there. It's really, really good. So we renovated. But the problem was we're still on Elm Street, and there now it's starting to get cold, and the landlord didn't want to give us any heat on Elm Street. So we're in there, and at that point we had owned the music school, so we had all these little rooms, all these little space heaters, because there's no heat, mm-hmm. and blowing fuses. I mean, I'd go into the fuse box and change the fuse, thinking, oh my God, is this going to be the one that's going to just zap me? And so then we hit because we're buying time because they're renovating, because we had to build all those music studios and build the theater in the new space, and it wasn't ready. And,
Wait, all those little rooms you built?
We built all those. Those are all new.
Oh, I thought that came that way.
Yeah, the only thing that was there when we got there was the theater space was there, but the doorway that goes out the back wasn't there. That was a big room. And then
all of that looks like
hallway.
it's been there forever.
Yep. So Mark Bolduc from Bolduc Construction, who is the husband of the woman who runs the CCD program at St. Marie's. Again, full circle again. It's like we just keep getting these recurring things. He did all the construction and did a great job, but it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. So then, so we're down the street. We're waiting. We're having these heaters. It's like we go into the office in the morning. It's 34 degrees. Karen's sitting there with her coat on. It's awful. Well, then, fast forward to the beginning of December, and pipes start to burst.
Of course. 3
in 1 weekend. So the landlord's answer to that was, let's turn the water. We're just going to turn the water off. So now we don't have bathrooms. So we have a music school with 130 students a week, 3 shows rehearsing with, 60, 70 actors total, and we have no bathrooms. So guess how long it took it to get really gross. So we ended up just saying, okay, we had been moving stuff out every weekend. We were moving a couple U-Hauls full of stuff. So finally I looked at Matt and I said, you know what? We're moving everything out. This is it. This is like a Monday night. I said, Wednesday morning, we're moving out. Everything that's left, we're going there. Hopefully, we're going to have our occupancy. We got our occupancy that Thursday. It all worked out. Wow. But it was one of those things where it was just like, we had been moving stuff. Oh, my God. We've been moving stuff for, every weekend for, 2 months. All putting it. So if you go to, you'll see pictures of, the theater space with, piles of stuff. And we just said, we got to do it. We just got to jump. We just got to do it. And so we moved everything out, and we've been in that building now since January of 2016, and it's the greatest thing that's happened to us. It's more money, it's more overhead, but we've been able to just elevate and do so many more things with that space that we could never do before.
So, and you don't have to give me a big. So, are you profitable? Are you able to?
We're still nonprofit. We're never going to be rich.
Yeah. Really.
I know it's hard to believe. A nonprofit community theater is never going to be rich. I know all the other theaters, I'm sure, are laughing at me because everybody has more money than they know.
Of course.
We're making it.
Okay.
We're making it, and we're able to put a little bit aside. One thing that's helped is that we pay every month to a triple N, which the landlord uses to do plowing and upkeep of the property and all that. And he's so frugal. He's great. We always get money back. So for 2 years in a row, knock on wood, we've gotten money back. So we've taken that and put it aside. So it's one of those things where we're not making oodles of money. And some shows make more money than others.
Right.
The youth and teen programs do very well. Some of the bigger shows do very well. Some of the smaller shows break even. I always say, we don't need to make hordes of money. If we can break even, cool. And we've done a couple of shows over the past couple of years that have lost money. Art was a perfect example of a show that was a great show.
You did Art?
We did Art that first year in that space.
I saw it in Boston years ago.
And had a great cast. It was a great show, and the greatest show nobody saw. I couldn't give away tickets. It was awful. Show was great, but nobody came. But then we had Moonlight Magnolias, which again 3 actors thinking, oh, it's going to be, and it did so well. Everybody came. So it's we make money on what we can, and then we put enough reserve behind. I will say that because I work as a professional musician, as you know too, which is a whole other full-time thing that I do, and I do very well with that. So I've been in a situation personally where I can help us in those months that the cash flow maybe isn't as great as the other months, and I always get it back because I always say, I'm 47 years old. I got to retire.
You're a young-looking 47.
I know, but you know what? I'm like, I got to retire at some point. It's like I'm not gifting this money. I gifted a lot of money over the years, and I still do. But
you think you're going to retire?
I will eventually.
Okay.
I'm like 95.
Okay.
But no, so it's.
Well, you can play a piano at Walmart.
That's what it is. Yes, Walmart will have a piano bar by then in their deli.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet Caroline, hams on sale.
Everybody. Now calling.
Try the Capicola. I always said that if I ever retire from doing theater and music, I want to be the person that puts the corn on the shelf. And those that are listening to that have heard me say that. Put the corn on the shelf. Put the corn on the shelf. But they're gonna start me easy, with beets, because there's not many varieties of beets. Because corn, there's cream corn.
Sure. Sweet corn.
Sweet corn.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna trust me with that. But it's gonna be someone's gonna say, Rob, put the corn on the shelf, and I'm gonna put the corn on the shelf. Put the corn on the the show. Third shift.
Sad.
Wouldn't that be a great
third
lead job?
shift? Of course.
Third shift,
yes.
put the quote on the show.
Yeah.
So, coming to a Walmart soon.
Yes, with his keyboard.
With my keyboard, put the quote on the show.
I want to ask you, how did the name Majestic come about? Where's that?
So,
what's the genesis of that?
So, interesting story on that, too. As you know, in Manchester, there were Palace Theatre, which I'm so glad they rescued this old theatre with the Rex Theatre. They're building a music venue, a smaller second stage, which is great. My sister and I went to that movie theater when it was Manchester Movies back in high school. Every Sunday we would go. It was a big theater and 2 small ones. And they're redoing that building, which was the Rex. I don't remember being at the Rex before my time. But many people don't know that there was actually another theater on that site originally called the Majestic Theatre.
A stage theater or a film theater?
Well, here's the thing. It never came to fruition because, and if you go back in articles, and I actually was recently thinking, I got to find these articles that I had just to post them because I think it's interesting, cool stuff. But there was a shell of a building there that they were starting to build. If I remember this correctly in my 30 years, was they were building this building as the Majestic Theatre. They got halfway from building the building, and there was a dispute on who owned the land. So it ended up just being half done, blighted forever. They never finished the theater. It was supposed to be the Majestic Theatre. Years later, they tore down what was there and they put up the building that's there. But that site was the site of the original Majestic Theatre. And my whole thing was like, when I was starting, I was going, Majestic, wouldn't it be cool to have us actually finish the Majestic Theatre? And Manchester had a Lyric, they had a Crown, they had a State, they had all these other theaters, Palace, a Strand. They never had an actual, no one ever did a Majestic Theatre. And maybe they did that because, the Palace has been around and they figured Palace was too close to Majestic. People still get confused with Palace and Majestic. I'm a little less apologetic now when I say, nope, that's the Palace. Because, Palace does great work too. We're not, I always say there's room enough for all of us, especially in Manchester. So, and they're doing great, great things too. So it's like we're doing great things, they're doing great things. We can all just be there. It's not one of those, it's not like Walmart and Target. We're not fighting over turf. So that's how the name came, was Majestic Theatre. And I have to call John Clayton to find those articles because it explained that whole thing, that whole saga of what had happened. And they were like, that would be a really good...
Yeah, you should frame that.
Yeah, put it up. Because, I think it's interesting, kind of cool. Yeah. This is how we got our name. So, but yeah. So
do you do any acting yourself? Because I have not known you as an actor.
I've done some. I'm not as much anymore.
You prefer to be on the other side?
Well, actually, no. I prefer to be an actor, to be totally honest, because I can go into someone else's theater as an actor and just be an actor and not have to worry about who's paying for the lights and how are the... how many ticket sales are there and all that stuff. I don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. I go in and do my thing and I can go. I did a lot of shows over the years at the Letty Center. Yeah. Another theater that Rob Dionne's been involved with that's now closed.
Pattern.
But no, Gatchell's retired, actually, so that's fair. And now Epping Community Theater's in that space. But no, it's... so I did a lot of shows at Letty Center over the years, starting with their previous theater. I don't know if you'd ever been in their theater that was upstairs.
No. I've never been to the Letty Center.
I'll tell you, they had a little theater upstairs. Building was sold. They moved into this old church at Ladd's Lane, and the new theater was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then the Gatchells, after 42 years, retired. Good for them. Because Elaine and Bruce, they did every show. They didn't.
So they're at Walmart now?
They're at Walmart stacking corn. No. They're traveling, which is good. I just saw them actually last weekend. They're actually going on vacation finally.
Really?
And traveling. And go figure. Huh. Not doing any theater. Going to see theater. Not going to see
on a
theater,
boat, on a ship, probably.
Not doing
cruise
any theater.
line.
So I did many shows over the years. I was in some of their Gilbert and Sullivans. I was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. They were the first theater to do Beauty and the Beast, the full Beauty and the Beast Disney one in New Hampshire. I was Beast in that. I was Albert in Bye Bye Birdie. The last show that they did in their last summer show was Annie. 3 summers ago, I was Daddy Warbucks in that.
So you were acting that?
Yeah, so I was
recently.
Yeah, so that was a couple years ago, and then recently, this past year, Something's Afoot came around again. Concord Players were doing it, and I'm like, again, sweet part for me. I want to do that show again. So I auditioned for the show, and Jim Weber was directing it with Steve LaJoy, and I got the part of Nigel, which is a part I had played back in Majestic back in the late 90s. I said I'm a much older and fatter Nigel than I was the first time, but I was able to do that show at Concord. And I hadn't done a Concord show since we worked together at Titanic and Joseph. I think Titanic was actually, that was the last Concord show I had done. So it was nice to be back at Concord. It's a great company. It's great people. Yeah. So I was able to do that last May. But, it meant taking time off from Piano Bar and making sure I had coverage at my theater. And so it's, doing a show for me outside of Majestic ends up being a challenge, which is why I don't do it a lot much anymore. But, there's certain shows, if they were to come around, Sue Schott she's doing falsettos down in Massachusetts, and I'm so jealous.
Isn't she getting ready to go on the tour with the Christmas thing again?
I think it's happening before then.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's doing that show, and I did that show with her twice, once in Concord, once in Manchester. Falsettos. Show I would stop the world to do again. I love the show, and was lucky to do it twice, and I'm like, I'd love to do it.
Is it on the docket at Majestic?
Probably not. Are you familiar with the show at all?
A little.
I think it's a little bit. We try to do stuff that's a little
away from
more,
your demographic.
Yeah, I think our demographic was, even like with Judy's Scary Little Christmas, we're putting a PG-13 on that. We did Best Little Whorehouse in Texas a couple of summers ago. Again, if you had told me 10, 15 years ago we were doing it, I was like, when are we going to do that show? And I'm like, the dirtiest part of that show is the title.
Right.
We can do it well and not be offensive.
Yeah. Do you get pushback from your audiences?
Not much at all. When we were at St. Marie's, we did some. It took me many years to actually have the guts to do nonsense.
Seriously?
Which is kind of funny. And I was always worried about what the nuns at St. Marie would think. And I'll tell you, when we finally did the first one, the nuns came. They loved it.
Yeah.
And I had talked to the nuns at St. Marie's. I said, I don't want to do something that's going to be offensive to you. And they're like, no, that's fun, And so they would come. Who would have thought that years later we would have done all of the nonsense shows? I became good friends with
all
Dan
90?
Goggin. All 90 of them. And become good friends with Dan Goggin because of it. The nonsense shows is funny because I was with Dan Goggin. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, but when I used to go to Florida, he has a place there. He'd meet up and we'd have dinner, all that. But he says to me, he's like, one day my mother said, are you going to write another show? And he's like, Ma, how many of these things can I write? But he actually has a new show out called Johnny Manhattan, which is a show he had written before Nonsense with a friend. And they reworked it. It appeared at one of the theaters in Michigan, and now it's available for production. But yeah,
it is?
Yeah, called Johnny Manhattan. And it's funny, you listen to music, and you can tell it's Dan Goggin. It just has that same feel.
Yeah.
And then now, one of the things that he started doing with the Nonsense shows was he started writing large cast versions, because that's what the company wants.
Mm-hmm.
But we did all the Nonsense shows. But yeah, so at St. Marie's, I remember the only time we did Little Shop of Horrors, and I remember being in the line at the post office. This was many, many, many years ago. And there was somebody from St. Marie's that approached me and says, I'm really offended by you doing that show.
What?
And I'm like, okay. I said, well, did you see the show? And he's like, well, no, but you know what? It has this. And I said, well, did you see the show? Well, no, it has... I said, if you didn't see the show, then we don't have anything to talk about. Because if you'd seen the show, you would have seen that we watered down Little Shop of Horrors as much as you can water down Little Shop of Horrors. A kid could have seen it. It would have been fine. So I think that a lot of times, like anything else, people were quick to react.
I just heard not long ago.
Yeah.
What could be offensive?
Maybe
just because I'm an adult.
Well, because of the goddams and stuff like that.
Oh, for crying out loud.
But we wouldn't put the goddamn... Honestly... Even now, we would not put a goddamn in a show. I mean, it's very much like, just because your demographic and all that. And I always tell my directors, and I give my I don't micromanage. I hire a lot of directors now. I can't direct every show. Yeah. And I tell them, I don't micromanage them. I know you're going to do a good job on this show. Tell me what you need from me to make it successful. And I'm going to keep poking in once in a while just to check in and say, hey, where are we at? But I always tell my directors, you can say God. You can say damn. You really can't say goddamn unless you really have to.
Oh, well,
then it's okay. But
that's interesting.
And I'm probably being more sensitive about it than actually.
No, that's okay. That explains a lot. When we did The Man Who Came to Dinner, there was some rephrasing a bit, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, that explains that. I get that now. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
So that's we just try to. And like I said, I have a few patrons that would probably be offended by.
So murder's fine.
Well, it's interesting. When we did Jekyll and Hyde, again, it was a PG-13.
I was just going to ask you about Jekyll and Hyde.
It was a PG-13, and we didn't sell any youth tickets. And our current seniors, the ones that came, loved it, thought it was great. I had a woman years ago. We did a Mice and Men. Again, one of my favorite shows. We did a Mice and Men, and we had a person call us. We lost a subscriber over it. They were very offended at the language in that show,
Really?
And whatnot, not realizing it's John Steinbeck. And so what happened after that was we knew we had a couple subscribers over the years that were sensitive to that stuff. So we would tell them, or if someone would call and say, "Well, I'm not sure," we'd say, "If you're not sure about this show, might I recommend you attend this other show? Last thing we want to do is have you come to the theater be offended." So that's helped some.
That's crazy.
But yeah, people, and everything, there's lots of different things that offend different people. So I mean, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't
I think about the
me.
Winnie just a year or two ago. We did The Graduate.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be able to do The Graduate.
She walked across that stage buck naked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's certain things that I just wouldn't,
Different demographic.
Well, and that's what it is, but one thing if I've learned over the demographic has changed some.
But it's nice that you cater to them. I mean, really
but the thing is, the hardest thing is that, I always say, theater audiences in New Hampshire want to see the sound of music. Actors don't want to do sound of music anymore. Because there's been so many productions of it.
It's like Annie.
It's like Annie. I mean,
wow.
I got Annie because I had done a lot for Elaine. She literally called me and said, "Hey, I need a Daddy War." This is like a year and a half or before the show. I'm doing Annie again next summer. This is like the spring of the year before. I don't have a Warbox. Do you know of anybody? I said, "Well, I played Warbox with Majestic." She's like, "You played Warbox?" And that was the first question. Second question was, "Will you shave your head?" And I said, "Yes." And I'm glad I did it. It was great. The only issue was she did the 74 version, the original Annie.
Yeah.
And the lines are a little different than the newer version. So it was like the Warbucks lines. He talks about red velour pants and stuff like that, and it's just... But yeah, so that's the thing, is that people don't want to do the chestnuts anymore. Actors don't. Mm-hmm. And because, what we talked about earlier, there's so much opportunity out there for actors, right. They don't have to do the Fiddler on the Roofs anymore.
Right.
And that's what makes it hard.
Yeah.
So it's always that. So picking a season, always that challenge of what shows can I pick that actors are going to want to do, but that what audiences are going to see that will fit in the slots that we have.
This is an interesting conversation because since you have to decide of the programming, I'm sure that there are shows you would love to do that don't meet that criteria. So do you? Is your audience in Manchester different than the one in Derry, which would be different than maybe your dinner theater? I mean, could you, if you wanted to do a show that might be a little bit more...
Well, I mean, I think our biggest issue with Derry, I mean, with the dinner theater and the studio stage is, and we added on, as you know, we added on the stage for that show that you did, which was the best thing we ever did. But the dinner theater stage is only 12 by 24.
Ooh.
It's small. So my whole thing is like, okay, I need a cast of 8 to 10, and a show that's that's audiences are going to like, but they can't all be on stage at once because you can't block. I mean, we had one show years ago, you can't do any blocking with that many people on the stage. So honestly, my bigger challenge is, it's less about content sometimes and more about what shows will fit the thing. But the other good thing is that there's certain writers that I know, we've done this show by this writer, audiences really liked it. Let's do this one by that writer. So we do a lot of that. We found out like the Neil Simon shows, they always sell. They're harder to get now that he died, but they always sell. So that's a challenge. And then the dinner theaters usually, it falls into a format like, typically I have like a couple comedies, a musical, and a murder mystery. We shook that up a little bit this year. We're not doing a musical in the dinner theater. But, and then with the studio theater, I'm like, all right, the stage is a little bigger. It's a little bit...
A little bigger.
Well, I mean, it's
it's not huge.
13 by 15, I think. 13 by 25 by 15 or something. Yeah. But it's still, the good thing is that we have flexibility to build out wings if we wanted, stuff like that. And, again, I wouldn't put a show that has 30 people in it on that stage.
And there's no room backstage to move.
Well, and there's no wings. But see, St. Marie's, we're used to that at St. Marie's. You went off stage, you went down the stairs into the rooms. There was no wings. So it was always like, okay, what set piece can we build? What Les Mis set piece can we build that forms into different things? But so we're used to that at our space. And you remember, too, that the studio space, we've only done a couple we've only done maybe half a dozen shows there total, if that many. Because this past year was only our second year putting shows in that space. The first year we didn't put any shows in that space. The first year we were in it, 2016. So I want to say, 17 and 18 and 19 were the first 2 years we put shows in that space, and we learned new things about every show that we do there. And honestly, it's for us. We're always looking at how can we make the actors' experience better. You know, things like that one door on stage left that was in the way. We never even, you know what I mean? I came in one day, it was off the hinges. Yeah. I think I went off the hinges that day, too. I'm like, you took my door off the hinges. I get very, very, very upset about little like, you ruined it, you know? I've worked so hard. And it was easy. We just flipped the door around. So now the door's not in the way, you know? And, you know,
and then you've got the competing with the music school there. That was
right.
minor issue.
And it was, you know, and it's one of those we all kind of cohabitate. You know, I always tell people, oh, it's Monday, you're going to get drum lessons. But, you know, we're working on stuff even for that, like, you know, adding another doorway back there, you know, to help buffer that sound. The hard thing is we have central AC, so no matter what you do, you're going to get it through the ductwork. So that's the issue there. But, you know, you learn to just kind of work around each other and, you know, you make it work, you know, and it's always, people know that on Mondays and Tuesdays we have drum lessons and it's loud in the theater. No different than when we hear them. Another issue that we've dealt with this year is the gym next door. You can't play loud music till 7:30 on Fridays because we have a show that starts at 7. And they're great. I mean, I just have to say, hey, reminder, we have a show this week. And
it's pretty loud, too.
Yeah, you know, and you pick up the big things and put down the big things. Yes. But, you know, you learn that stuff by you know, and we're going to try that for another year. And honestly, if it still doesn't remedy, we put another wall in front of the wall that's there. You know, there's ways to dampen the sound some. So, you know, with each show, we learn more things in that space. But our biggest thing is, you know, always how can we make it, after every show, how do we make it better for the actors? How do we make it better for the audience members? Because audience members love the space, you know, and actors like the intimacy.
Nice little space.
They like the intimacy of the space. So I think it's, you know, every space has its drawbacks and its issues, and you just try to overcome those. Every theater we've ever had is, I mean, Derry Opera House has issues. You know, the wings at Derry aren't huge either. Right. You get 30 kids on that stage.
It's a town hall, basically. I mean, it's really not.
And so you just learn to adapt the way you need to adapt. You know, it's, so it's, you know, nothing's impossible. And I think that's why we survived the 30 years through however many theaters we've had and whatnot. Because we've just said, you know what? All right, there's an obstacle. We're gonna plow through. We're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, you adapt.
And I have a lot of good people over the years that have just been in our corner and said, you know what? I'll name, you know, the Bean Foundation is a perfect. They give out grants, and they gave us a grant both times when we lost the theater. We lost the St. Marie Theater. They gave us a grant to stay alive, and then when we lost Elm Street and we renovated the new theater, they gave us a grant to stay alive. So they've been. So, you know, there's a lot of people that are in our corner. And I remember seeing someone years ago after we lost, I think, the second theater, and she's like, you guys just won't die, will you? And I said, no. I said we've worked too hard. Yeah. We've worked too hard just to throw in the towel. So now we have a 15-year lease in our current space. I took the longest lease I possibly could.
15 years, wow.
Longest lease I possibly could.
Yeah,
I had to personally guarantee it myself because I have to have a name on there. So if Majestic,
you will be working at Walmart.
So I'll be working at Walmart. I may have to put like, you know, the seafood in the cooler because I pay more for that.
You can carry an accordion and play.
I can. Yep, with gloves. Yeah, with the fingers cut out. Welcome to Walmart. Would you like a card?
So, okay, I want, before I close out this segment on the theater, because I want to get to talking about you.
I know. I keep coming back to the theater. That's just what I do.
No, it's okay.
This is what I do.
That's fine.
So ingrained.
Yeah, no, and it's what we have in common. Anyway. So, I just saw on Facebook you're having a fundraiser coming up, right?
Yes.
That's something about disco.
Yeah, we have a theme every year.
Okay.
Last year was the circus, which is great. They turned the theater to like a big top. It was great. Karen, our development director, Karen Bissett, is very creative. She's a visual artist, so she does a lot of these really cool things. So this year the theme is disco. November 15th at the Studio Theater, 880 Page Street. We have raffles, we have performances, we have a live and silent auction, we've got food, we've got drink, we've been doing the auction for a very long time. We used to do it at St. Marie's. We did it at the Manchester Community College a couple years, and this will be the third or fourth year we've done it in our space. And it's a really great event. It really is. So, and that's our biggest fundraiser of the year.
I was going to ask you.
It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. So, so every year we have a theme, and this year I'm like, we're like, what do we want to do this year? So let's do disco. So it'll be fun.
Just riding off the Mamma Mia.
You know what? It
wave.
wasn't even that. It was just like, I know we're the only theater that hasn't done Mamma Mia yet.
Yeah, right. I know.
I always wait till everyone does it, and then I'm like, okay, now we're going to do it. And can I rent that from you, and rent that from you, and rent that from you?
Perfect. Brilliant.
Yeah, just because, it's like Shrek. We were the last theater to do Shrek Jr., the kid one, forever. But yeah, so it's November 15th. You can get tickets online. It's on the website, www.majestictheatre.net, 669-7469. It's all there. And as we get closer to the event, we'll start adding lists of items that we've got. So if you want to check that out as well. But it's a really great event. Karen and her committee do an absolute amazing job. I handle more the performance side of it, and the marketing stuff that goes with it. But it's we've done it. This is our 4th annual. No, it's our 14th annual. Sorry, Karen, I didn't mean 4th. She's like, we've done how many of these? It's our 14th annual. So that should show you how long we've been, and that pretty much coincides with around the time Karen started working for us. So she was able to really help us elevate the event. And every year we do better than we did the year before.
Is that your unveiling as well of the new season?
New season, we already unveiled it to our subscribers.
Yep.
And it's actually online as well. Okay. It's actually on our YouTube channel and on Facebook.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
There's so many shows. So I'll just throw them all out at you.
Just
so
verbally vomit it out.
Yeah. So and I didn't bring my list because this is unscripted, So
it is.
I did not. He says, do not bring any papers. He threatened me. He was going to take a lighter and burn them. And I believed him. So
I got that kind of face.
So the kids this year. So the kids and teens. Every year we add kid and teen programs because we can't accommodate the numbers. Again, that speaks to there can be many of us doing stuff, and there's enough for all of us. So the kids right now are working on James and the Giant Peach Jr. in October, which is written by the same writers as Dear Evan Hansen and The Greatest Showman. The teens are doing Addams Family School Edition, which is like Addams Family the Musical, except for teens. Yep. That's in October as well, Derry Opera House. From there, we go to Judy's Scary Little Christmas in December, which is a great musical. I'm so excited we're doing it. And so that's going to be the first weekend of December in the Studio Theater. Elf the Musical, which is, again, you saw the movie Will Ferrell. There's a musical version of that at the Derry Opera House. It's a big family. We had almost 50 people come out to audition for that. Wow. Unheard of. We don't get that. And so we cast like 30-something. And then after that, we go into dinner theater. And then we go to 2 shows a month, January, February, March, April, May. So in January, we've got The Good Doctor by Neil Simon for dinner theater. And we've got Fiddler on the Roof Jr. with the kids and the teens.
Oh, that's great.
And every January, we try to do a junior of an old chestnut. Because I'm a firm believer that the kids growing up should get to know the sound of music. They should get to know Fiddler. Good. So we've done, like, last year was Music Man Jr., the year before was Bye Bye Birdie. So, it's, we try to do stuff that's... and then in February, we've got 2 options for you to bring your special someone to, if you have a special
like
someone.
Valentine's Day stuff?
Although one's a little bit of a twisted show. So the first one is... what is the first one? It is...
Dracula.
Dracula, yes. See, I knew I should have brought the list. The first one is Things My Mother Taught Me, which was written by the same writer as Nana's Naughty Knickers, which we did years ago to huge... I mean, people loved it. And also that month we've got John Cariani, his show Love Sick. He wrote Almost Maine.
Someone else did
we saw that. Well, Hatbox did it a couple years ago, and I was like, again, adjudicated the show's like, I love this show. And the good thing is it's a bunch of little scenes, so it's easy to rehearse in our spaces. So, but that one's they say it an unromantic Valentine or an unromantic comedy. So Lovesick, and then March. Let's see, March we've got King of the Moon, King O' the Moon, which is written by Tom Dudzik. Tom Dudzik has written. He wrote a show called Over the Tavern, which we had done years ago. This is the second half of that. There's 3 shows. You don't have to have seen the first show to get it, but it's just he's a really good writer. These characters he creates, you almost think you're watching a Neil Simon show in some ways because the characters are really well fleshed out. Good show. So that was March. Then March we have Disney's The Little Mermaid Jr. in Derry with our teens and our youth.
And all of these are being rehearsed
all the same
back
time.
to back to back. Oh my God!
And then let's see, April we've got Love, Sex, and the IRS, which has been done a few times. Fun show.
Yeah.
And we also have Steel Magnolias, which is a show that I've wanted to bring back since we were at St. Marie's, and that's in the Studio Theatre. Love, Sex, and the IRS is a dinner theatre. And then in May we go to Spam-A-Lot School Edition. We're trying to do a teen show that not everybody and their mother has done 17 times. So there has been a few theaters that have done it. So we're doing Spam-A-Lot School Edition.
I didn't know there was a school. Wow, that's
it's,
really
again,
good.
they've taken it and then our play in June, and then we go to one show a month. And also in May...
It's going to seem like a vacation.
And I know you're going to bring this up, but May we're also going to be bringing back the Rockin Daddios, which I know we're going to talk about.
We will.
Because they were tremendously successful when we had them in August. So we're going to have them in May. And then in June we have... what they've done now, this is really cool. So now, Agatha Christie wrote these little shorter stories.
I didn't know that.
And what they did is Sam French took 3 of them, and they created these 3 one-acts in one show. There's a whole series of them now. So we're doing a show called...
Are they all whodunits?
They're all whodunits, all whodunit thrillers, all this stuff. So we're doing a show called... it's Agatha Christie's The Rule of 3. And it's 3 one-act horror, suspense, mysteries. Really excited for that because it's like you're going to come to the theater, you're going to see 3 shows that night. And they're not, each one's like maybe 35 minutes. So you're not going to be there for like 4 hours, don't worry. And then every July we always try to do a big musical. And this year we decided we were going to do Secret Garden, which we hadn't done since we did it at St. Marie's.
Hugely popular.
Yeah, it was just, it's a great show. It's such a great show. So we're going to do that in July. That'll be at the Opera House as well. And then August, we're just going to do music events and stuff like that, just to kind of...
So you're doing a musical at the Opera House there. How do you like the acoustics there?
It's actually not too bad. We actually, Keith Bolandry, who's been our resident musical director for years and years and years, we actually put the orchestra in the balcony.
Seriously?
So if you're sitting in the balcony, it's off to the side here.
Oh my gosh.
And it works really well. It really works well. We're not using a 50-piece orchestra. Usually it's about, 6 to 8 to 10 people. But it works fine. It really works fine. So that's our big musical. And I'm already starting to think about the 30th anniversary. What's going to be our big July musical? I want it to be something big. So there's a couple of shows that are in my head, and I'm more. Are
they shows that you personally really want to see done, or are they shows that know are going to be drawing?
They're both. Okay. Both. They're both shows. The July musical, we try to do something that's going to really the actors. Because, it's July. Who wants to do a show in July that they really don't want to...
You did Jekyll in July.
Yeah, and we got a cast of people that were like, we want to do it. We still have plenty of summer left after. We stopped doing an August show for that reason, is that it was so hard to cast an August show because actors are like, I want to be on the beach. I don't want to be rehearsing. And that's why for many years, people remember that's always when we did Nonsense. We always did it in August because we pre-cast it, and then we would rehearse it a lot, take a break during the summer, and then bring it back a few weeks before and put the show up. Same people and all that. But when we ran out of Nonsense shows, we were like, all right, now what do we do? Dan, you got to write another show. No, he's not going to write another Nonsense show. We've done them all. The only one we haven't done is Nonsense Amen, which is the
Has he done one with animals yet?
No, there's no animals.
Dog Sense?
Dog Sense. That's a poopy show. But the only one we have not done Nonsense Amen, which is the first Nonsense show, but men dressed in drag playing nuns. Again, talk about what might be a little bit much for our audience. I remember Palace did it billions of years ago, and we were doing like the Christmas one later that year. And I remember people calling, and I knew people that saw that show at Palace and loved it. They thought it was so funny. And other people would call and say, this is like nuns, right? This is women, right? This is because we just saw Nonsense Amen, and it was offensive. Man. And they've probably gotten calls over the years of people saying, I just saw this show at Majestic, and it's not going to be like that, is it? They all get those calls.
Terrible.
So that's our season. And if you go online, our subscriptions are going to be online very, very soon. We're currently selling subscriptions to our current subscribers. They have until October 15th to do that, and then they go on sale to everybody else. But if you go on our YouTube channel, I'm going to say Majestic NH603, then you'll see it. We have a preview video of our our season. And also, if you click on our podcast, because I do a podcast for WMNH every other week,
That's right.
go back in those. I've had several season preview weeks. So
Do you have a limit on subscribers?
No.
Do they get a discount?
They get a huge discount. Yeah, it's $160.
So if you sold all your subscriptions, because
No, there's still because the thing is that with we have the most flexible subscription in the world. Like the subscription, basically for $160 a person, you get the 4 dinner theaters, which that right there pays for the subscription, and then you get 2 flex tickets to use for any other show, and then beyond that, if you want to see all the shows beyond that, you pay $10. So it's one of those things.
$10?
So it's one of those things. As a subscriber, you get the 4 dinner theaters, you get the 2 flex shows. Okay, that's 7. That's 6. That's 6. I can't count. That's 6. And then, so the other 8 shows, instead of paying $15, $20, you can pay $10 and get in. So, and we allow subscribers to do exchanges, all that stuff. So it's really been, we have subscribers that have been with us forever and ever and ever.
I can see why.
So those will go on sale. And the reason why we can do as many as we want, because it's a flexible thing where if you want to come to the dinner theater on Friday in January, but Sunday in February, and Saturday, and so it's not like you're buying a specific seat, which is what most theaters do. They go, you got to buy the first Friday on every one.
Right.
So that's why we can do it. But
wow.
We've kept it at 160 for many, many years. We appreciate the loyalty.
Yeah.
And
it is. There's a lot to be said.
But I wish that they more would take advantage of that $10 ticket thing. I keep telling them
that's crazy.
because it's like anything else. It's like people don't read, and then you're like, well, you can get it for 10. What do you mean I can get it for 10? Yes, you can get it for
$10 to see a show in this day and age.
Yeah, $10.
Even community theater's getting to be outrageous.
Well, our musicals, we went kicking and screaming to $20 on the big musicals because we just have to. I remember the rights for the rights for 2 weekends of a musical at the Derry Opera House, the rights alone are like $3,000 plus.
Yeah, I know.
And that's 327 seats. So it's not like I always say, I always put kudos to the Palace, because honestly, professional theater, so they're paying more. Their ticket price is higher, so they're paying more. And they have 880 seats. That royalty bill for that many shows must be like, oi.
Right. And they're paying their actors on top of that, right? I mean, it's just, and the overhead.
Yeah. Our rights for the 15 shows this year that we did, our rights, all said and done, were probably between $25,000 and $30,000 just for the rights. So what happens is that we end up, we're always, and our thing at Majestic is like, how can we elevate the production values? That's always a thing, but there's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we really rely on the goodwill of, Concord Players is a perfect example of someone that is so generous. We borrow costumes from them. I borrow set pieces from them. I borrow furniture. It's just, and we're the same. And it's funny because we learned from them. And if we're not using something and a theater wants to borrow it, I'll say, hey, throw an ad in the program if you can, and we'll just lend it because we've learned that, because Concord's been such a good steward for the 90 or something years they've been around.
Right.
So,
and they have everything. If you've been to their warehouse.
Oh my God, they have everything.
That's crazy what they've got down there.
Well, Winnie has quite a bit too, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They have quite a bit. They've done a good job of building up over the years as well.
They sure have.
They don't lend out as much stuff, I think, just because of they're using a lot of their stuff. And but I know that even Winnie, if I called them and said, hey, you've done this show, do you have this one? And they had it. Then,
and if they didn't have it, they would tell you where you could
so that's but that's the thing too with the theaters too over the years is that we talked about there being so many companies. The companies that are very much like we do our thing and we're just they don't last very long because you have to learn really quick in New Hampshire theater. We're all one family of what we're doing. We're all doing the same thing, and if we can't share, if we can't play nice. And it took me a while to learn that. There was several years at Majestic, early Majestic, that I was like hardcore, and made some mistakes over the years, And one was with the Palace. I made a mistake with the Palace, and this was in the recent history, back in their 100th anniversary. I did a marketing piece that was and I'm not going to get into it. It was not right. It wasn't right, and I got called on it, And I said, and I'm like, what? And I apologized. I said, what? No, that was not. We shouldn't have taken that angle on that marketing piece because it was not right. We should have been celebrating the fact that you've been around for 100 years, And so now, you learn that. But a lot of times, though, you learn that after time of like, okay, you got to play nice with others. Otherwise, it's just not, you're not going to be alive. Right. So.
I wanted to punch in one more piece here about adjudicating Gina. Because
I have not watched the Gina and Justin show.
Oh, that's
yet.
okay.
I have
No,
not yet. You just did that one, didn't you?
That was one of the first ones, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's
I'm behind that.
Well, I just want to say, talking about ticket prices, it's a good reason to be an adjudicator,
Yeah,
honestly.
it is.
I adjudicated for that reason. Because I got to see shows I would never see, because I can't...
Yeah.
I'm not going to drive normally to North Conway
Yeah.
to go see a show, but I did to adjudicate it,
Yeah.
and it was a great show.
Yeah.
M&D does great stuff up
Yep.
there. And so...
You know what's funny? I never got assigned M&D, which is very weird, which is sad. But I got assigned, like, I was at Weathervane a couple times. I saw
Yeah.
Floyd Collins at Weathervane.
Did you like it?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It was so
I haven't been
good.
up there. I've never
It was
been up
so
there.
good. And even, like, Branch River Theater in Moultonborough or near Peterborough, that's where I first saw Dancing at Lunasa. And I was like, what a good show. And they did a good job on it, too. And some of the stuff you see is not great.
Right.
But it's but for me, every time I'd have to go to Littleton Opera House to see a show, I would I'll make a night of it. I'll stay at the little motel there off the highway, and I'll make
So my wife and I do went to dinner, then we go see the show.
Yep. So it's a nice little getaway, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
But I miss adjudicating, but I don't miss the time it takes for me to do it.
Yeah.
I was always that person. Sorry, Brian.
Well, it's not like you're sitting around doing nothing.
That was what it was. It was I got to get that report in, and I was good. When I adjudicated, I took like stupidly good notes. But it was just a matter of sitting down and physically doing it.
Yeah.
But when I would go to Littleton to do a show, I would see the show, get a pizza and beer, and I'd go back to the hotel and I'd type the report right there. But yeah, thank you, Brian, because Brian was very patient with me over the years.
Yeah.
But no, I was always that person that I was late on a ballot when I said, and then there's a larger thing too. In New Hampshire Theatre Awards, again, it's a great thing that brings people together. But as a theater, we just said, we need to focus on making things better for our actors and our community that are for a year or two, and say, okay, we're gonna do events and stuff that's going to help support and appreciate our people more, instead of like being part of a bigger thing like that where it takes And so we're sad not to be part of it, but I think it was the right decision for the time, and kudos to Justin and Gina That's a lot of work, and I'll tell you, nobody wants to take that on. It's too big of a monster now.
Yeah.
And I worry that when they finally say, "Oh, we're just not going to do it anymore," that no one's going to be able to step up.
It's a huge
People are going to, because everyone's so busy with their own stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to go, "Well, it was great while it lasted."
I know.
And that's too bad because it's too good of a thing to.
My wife has really fallen in love with it. My wife is not a theater person.
Mm-hmm.
She despises theater people. Despises them.
Really?
Yes. Well, it's an
Except
ego.
for you.
All the ego. Yes, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I force her. So anyway, she loves the theater awards.
Yeah.
Because they've done such a great job in evolving the show.
Remember the first couple of shows at the Palace?
Yes.
Oy vey.
Yeah. Thank God.
And then the last couple of shows, I didn't see last year, but the shoe shows before that. Wow.
I know.
You just sit there so proud to be part
With their
of.
productions, right? Yes.
Yeah, so proud of like what we do in the state for theater, and what we all do in the state.
And
for
it's such a
theater,
showcase.
Yep.
And it's an entertaining evening on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go, even if you don't have a dog in the race, you know, you can go and just watch.
Yeah.
And that's what my wife loves about it. She doesn't know anybody anywhere and just loves to go watch.
Yeah.
She gets all the little bits and pieces of the highlights of the shows throughout the year. She loves it. And it's well done.
Yeah.
Kudos to those folks.
Are they at Capitol Center again this year?
I'm guessing, yeah. So where else are you going to house that many people?
Yeah, that's the other hard part, too. There's not a lot of... Because, they were at Palace for a few years and Pinkerton for a few years.
Pinkerton.
And that was
Well, you
a good
park a
space, too.
million miles away at
Well,
Pinkerton.
yeah, except for that, yeah. You
And
have
if
to,
it's
you have
cold...
to dog sled in.
Yeah. Right. No, having it in Concord has just been brilliant.
Yeah. Well, and that's the funny thing.
Hotels,
That's the funny
parking,
thing too about
dinner.
parking, because I always say with the executive court, I don't know if you've ever been to any of it. It's near the Yard Restaurant in Manchester. I said it's the only place in the whole city that actually has plenty of parking. It is huge lots, because everywhere else you go, I don't care where you go, nobody has. I mean, you go to the Audi. I mean, I love the Audi, but again, you have to find that little nook. And like, where's my secret nook to park? Because it's just hard to park. But you want to do it, you do it. You make it work. It's.
Well, the Audi does it too.
They do it.
So let's talk about Rob Dionne.
Okay.
So I wanted, before we even get to the Rockin Daddios, because I love the Rockin Daddios and the whole thing that's going on there. So I want to talk about your piano playing at the bar that you do. So how long have you been doing that?
So I started doing piano bar back in 2005.
At the same bar you're at now?
No, so I started doing it at the Breezeway Pub in Manchester.
Did they close?
No, they didn't. No, but I think it's it's less of a gay bar, more of a swingers bar, though I hear. But I have not been there in a while. No, they did not close. That's a good question. Now, if they close next week, I'm going to be in deep trouble. So what happened was there was a bartender that was doing a piano bar night with a guy named Kenny, who was an actor at the Palace Theatre at the time. And he says, I'm going to try this piano bar thing. So Kenny did it for a while. And then, like a lot of the professional actors at Palace, they don't just work there. They work throughout the country. They pull people from all over. So Kenny moved on to his next thing. And then the bartender was like, geez, I don't have a piano bar guy anymore. Do you want to do it? So I said, yeah, how hard can this be? So I always remember the first thing I did, I set my little keyboard up, and I had the Broadway fake book. I put the Broadway fake book down, and I opened the page.
Okay, so what's the Broadway fake book?
Well, the Broadway fake book, it gives you, like, just the lyrics, the melody line, and the chords. So it's like a watered-down version of the pieces, usually on one sheet. And it has, like, the Broadway fake book probably has, 6,000 songs from all these shows. Wow. They have fake books for everything. So I put down the Broadway fake book, I open. Hey, Annie. And I start to play Annie. So I ended up being at the Breezeway a very long time. So as time went on, I would play, and I remember when I first started, I was paid, I did a long night. I'm like, I'm just going to come in. I'll just come in at 6 and play till whenever. So I get in at 6. I play like 6 off and on, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. for $50. Why not? I'm learning. And I would learn I'd learn all of these songs, and we'd do this thing. I'd put all the fake books out, and they'd pick a song they want me to try, and they'd put the dollar in the book. And so it was good for a while, and as I went on, I created binders. I had a Broadway binder, and just songs that I knew that the crowd liked. I had an Elton John Billy Joel binder, all this stuff. And every week I'd walk in with my laundry basket full of fake books and binders, and my little sound system I'd set up, and I would do it. And at one point I was doing Mondays and Tuesdays there. Most of the time for 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 faithful people that came every week. Once in a while, Michael Curtis would come in, and he'd sing a song.
He'd sing?
Oh, yeah. Have you heard Michael?
Never.
Oh, my God, you got to hear Michael.
Really?
And I'm not just saying that so he doesn't send me. He doesn't ask me to get off his lawn. But, no, Michael has an incredible voice. And so sometimes Michael would come in, and others would come in here or there. So I did that for a while. Well, then there was a gentleman from Manchester that ended up buying a bar in Algonquin called Inside Out. It was a bar that was there. He bought it off the owner. He was running the business. And he had heard from DJ Brian O'Connor. Thank you, Brian, because you led me to continue with this. He says, well, Rob Dionne's doing piano bar now. You should have him come up and play. So that following summer, after being at the Breezeway for a couple of years, John says, will you come and play like happy hour, 5:30 to 8:30, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one summer, 2007, around that time, 6 or 7. I said, sure. So I'd come up again. I'd move all my big thing of books, my sound system, all this stuff up the stairs, and I'd sit in the little bar area, which is still there. It's a taco restaurant now. Mm-hmm. So every time I go there, I'm like, I played right there one summer. And I would sit there and I would play whatever, and people would just do with background music. I'd play and sing, and the owner would say, turn up, and the chef would say, you're too loud. And it was, so that summer, towards the end of the summer, there was these 2 guys that I had met that was 2 husbands, that one was a singer, one was a piano player, and they were playing down the street at Admiral's Inn Lounge. And they were doing Fridays and Saturdays. So when I was done at 8:30, I'd zip down there to hear them. Oh. So end of that summer, they said, hey, next summer they want us to come back. We don't want to do both nights. Would you do Fridays and we'll do Saturdays? The owner said that was fine. So that next summer, I moved to, and by then, Inside Out, they had closed. Not because of me. Not because of me.
Breadcrumbs. Follow the breadcrumbs.
Gets better. So I go to Admiral's Lounge for a summer, and I play every Friday for that whole summer. And they ended up selling the business a couple years later. Not because of me. I've just been around forever. I can't help it. And so what ends up happening is that towards the end of that summer, one night, the guy who was booking the people at the front porch where I am now, and the guy who was doing the scheduling and a couple other people were at a show at the Gunko Playhouse, which is right up the street. This is all on Route 1, that busy Route 1. They were walking back, and they said, hey, there's a piano bar here. We should stop in. So all of a sudden I'm playing. And again, I got some faithful people at Admiral's, but again, it wasn't a huge crowd. A lot of people that were staying there. And so they walked in, and I'm like, oh, all the front porch piano player, like 3 of the piano players are here. So I'm doing it. So I finished my shift, and I want to say it was Jeffrey Mitchell, who still plays at the porch. He's retired from playing, but he plays show tunes twice a month. And he says, why are you here? Why don't you play at the porch? And I'm like, well, I've never been invited. So anyway, so he talked to the owner at the time, Wayne Westcott, and I was supposed to be at Admiral's. This was like right before Labor Day, and I was supposed to be there until Columbus Day, and they hired me, and they said, we want you to start Labor Day night. So so I told the Admiral's owners, and they got it. They're like, nope. Ken and Jason were like, no, we get it. It's a good opportunity, all this stuff. So I started playing at the porch, and now I think I'm starting my 12th year in September.
Wow.
At the front porch. It's 11 or 12 years. It's such a blur as far as the years.
Well, you're old now, too.
Well,
so
I'm getting older. I don't remember things as well,
right.
But so I've been there, and over the years with the porch. So Wayne Westcott owned the business for many, many of those years. And then 3 or 4 years ago, we have a brand new owner named Scott Vogel, who's a great guy who's he's brought some new life and some new ideas into the business. Which is great, and so I've just continued being there, and I've learned over the years, I've gotten really good at knowing what crowds want. Oh, you like that song, you're going to like that. And I've gotten much more confident about it, so now, whereas something that would rattle me 6 years ago, I'd be like, doesn't anymore. I take the punch and I roll with it. And that's really helped me be very successful. So that ends up being, I end up doing that quite a bit as well. I think last year I did a total of like 200 and something cabaret nights or something in the year.
What?
Yeah.
On top of everything
else, yeah. So yeah.
200.
So it was very, very busy. So, but the good thing that's helped also is that, I have people that come back every year, and they're maybe on vacation. They're like, "Oh, we fix our vacation so we can see you," and it's really, really nice. It's a really good community, and I find it a lot of fun because, again, it's the challenge of, like, if someone says, hey, do you have this song? If I'm feeling good about the crowd, I'll say, no, I don't know, but let's download it, let's do it, and I'll just do it. And it might not be perfect the first couple of times, but some of the greatest songs I have are things that people said, hey, how about this song? And I learned, I'm going, wow, people really like this, I'm going to really learn this. And the good thing about that now is it's no longer the laundry basket, it's all iPad.
Oh.
So I have like thousands and thousands of songs in the iPad. So, and the other good thing is that I can, if you ask me for a song I don't have, but like I'm kind of familiar with it, I either have it in one of the fake books in the Kindle, which is an awful, awful app, or I can just go online and just...
There goes my Amazon sponsorship.
I'm sorry.
Down the tubes.
But I can also just download the sheet music and just do it. And that's what makes it, I always say if someone asks for a song I don't have, next time they ask for it, I'm going to have it. Yeah. I'm going to make sure I have it.
So what do you find people are, what kind of, I don't ever go to bars anymore. So what kind of music are you playing?
So a lot with the front porch.
It's like all show tunes.
So the front porch. So the thing is, the front porch has like been around forever and ever and ever. It's like one of the oldest piano bars around, and it's so if you play early, it depends on the crowd. You play to the crowd. If you play early, it's typically like on Fridays. I do 5 to 9 on Fridays, and I'll play like all the old standards, the crooners, show tunes, and then the last hour that I might go into like some 60s, some Elton John, Billy Joel, some dance style music. I have a drum machine that I use for the dance style stuff, and I do that because when the person comes on at 9, then it's like they can hit the ground running. And so that's the whole idea, is giving them a good room. If I'm playing late, it can be everything from 60s to Lady Gaga to Billy Joel to It's Raining Men to...
So are people singing along with you?
Oh, yeah, it's all sing-along bass.
It's all
sing-along bass.
Oh, yeah. So it's not just you playing, you're not just Billy
so
Joel
I'm playing
piano
and singing,
man
and they're all singing along with it. And that's the whole thing, is the challenge of picking songs that people are going to want to sing with you, then also that they know the words to, because we're so karaoke based now that people expect the words are going to be on the screen behind. We can't do that because of copyright things. So it's very much like on, okay, what songs do you know? My show Tune Fridays, there's a lot of people that are there, have been there every week forever and ever and ever. They'll know every word to every song. It's amazing. And then now we were given the challenge at the beginning of this summer by the owner to start playing, he used the word younger music. And I get that because, and when he first said that, I was kind of scared. I was like, oh, I'm not sure I can do this.
So he's transitioning. He's figuring there's a younger audience.
And I'm going like, okay, I can do that 60s stuff, the Beatles, the Monkees, the Journey, all the 70s, the 80s. Can I do the younger stuff? Having the drum machine has helped. But again, I took it as a challenge. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to let this, I'm not going to let this lick me. I'm gonna learn some newer stuff.
I've learned. Is this where the Beeb comes in?
Was that
Justin Bieber? Is that?
I do have a couple of Justin Bieber songs. I do them as a joke. I have Britney Spears. I do it as a joke because nobody wants to see Rob Dionne sit behind the piano and play Britney Spears. But I'll still do like Cher, Madonna, all the Pink, all those new hip. There's always something new that's hip. Mm-hmm. The song of the summer this year is "Shallow" from A Star Is Born. It's one of the Lady Gaga songs from that, and that's the big song that's driving everybody nuts because the staff nuts because they hear it like forever and ever and ever. And so I've learned.
People singing it with you?
Oh yeah. But the good thing about that is it allowed me to bring back some of the other Lady Gaga I have, like "Bad Romance," Edge of Glory," all those songs that are just high. And what I do on the late nights is I do a high energy piano bar, so it's like the songs are like bing 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 bang.
So it's like a medley.
It's a medley because you realize is that what happens is that if you give people a chance to draw their attention away, that's when misbehaving starts happening, and that's when you lose the crowd. And once you lose the crowd, it's like it takes a lot to get them back. So I try to do like a high energy, just like but the good thing is that people are still they still want to sing "Lion Sleeps Tonight." You know what I mean? They still want to sing, Deo, American Pie, Queen. You get a lot of the same stuff, which is good. And then once in a while, I'll throw in some, like one night someone wanted a Pitbull song. And I was like, Pitbull? And the funny thing is, what I do sometimes is, if I'm out and I hear a song that I'm like, that's a kind of cool song, I could do that. I'll go on my phone, I'll put it in the queue to download, and then I'll download it, and then I'll forget about it. So I typed in Pitbull, and I forget what song I had, but I was like, oh, I can play this. Did the song tremendously successful. People all sang along. But what the owner's trying to do, and I respect that immensely, because so many piano bars in this, everywhere, are in that mode of like, this is what we do. We do this. We've done this for 40 years. This is what we do. And the crowds just don't come anymore. There's a perfect example. There's a piano bar in Fort Lauderdale called Club Silver. It opened right when I was there in December, and their whole thing was they had that happy hour, the crooner guy who was very good singing, and I said, I never want to bump anybody, but if you have open slots, I'm here. I'd love to play. Oh no, we're done by like 9. Well, no offense, but the older guys that come in and have 2 iced teas aren't going to help you support your business for the thing. So what this owner's done is he said, okay, he's a younger guy too. He's in his late 20s. He's in his late 20s. Yeah, he's done a lot, and he's in his late 20s. He has a lot of people that are supporting him, a lot of investors in the business and stuff like that, which helps. I don't know the whole inner workings of that, so I'm not promising to know. I know the inner workings of that. But he said, you know what? And he's told himself, he's like, if I'm going to grow this and keep it alive, we've got to do this. We've got to cater to that. But there's challenges with that, because sometimes you might have a room full of people my age that are just as happy singing the Beatles or whatever, and people on the other side that are younger that want to hear the Lady Gaga and stuff like that. So what I end up trying to do is I try to just ping both back and forth between things. But people just want to be entertained. And that's the other thing, too, at piano bars is that years ago, so even the front porch, the older piano players, they sat there and they just played. They never sang a note.
They were background, right, pretty much?
Well, they just sang a note, and the crowd knew all the lyrics, and they would sing all the tunes. Well, now people don't want that anymore. People want to be entertained. So if you're just sitting there playing, people they want to be engaged. Mm-hmm. So I find as long as you're engaging people, even if it's a song that they might not know too well, and I have a good rapport. I'm joking with people, and I do silly little things like if someone gets up to go to the bathroom and they come back, I'll stop playing. And go, did you wash your hands? Yeah, okay. And I'll keep it. Just silly little, stupid little things like that people just make people chuckle.
Yeah.
And gives them a good time, then it works. And so that's been the challenge. So it's good that that's so successful. I make really good money doing that. But my issue is, I love what I do. I have to do less of it. Yeah. As I get older, I'm just like, I just want more time.
So 200 nights a year?
Just do my thing, plus the theater stuff, and and so it's, so it's a little less.
So this is the porch in where? Ogunquit?
The front porch, piano bar and restaurant in Ogunquit, Maine.
And how are you there now?
I'm there 3 nights a week right now.
You are?
Yeah, Thursday, Fridays, and Sundays for another couple weeks. And then as we get into the winter, we cut less nights. We go to like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'll just be 2 nights, which is doable. So the good thing is in the winter it gets a little bit less, because
is that a big drive for you?
It's about an hour and 15. I have a place in Ogunquit as well.
Oh, okay.
So that helps.
Yeah.
That helps. So I don't get to spend much time there, but it's a place where if I get out and I'm just tired, I can just crash there. So it's good.
That is good. That is good, man.
But yeah, so it's a great place. It's it's everyone's happy place is what they call it, and it's I'm thrilled that I'm there. And I said I'll be there. I'll be there as long as I'm still relevant. And then when the day that I realize it's gotten beyond me, then I will. But I'll tell you, I'm going to go down fighting because I want to I'll learn that new stuff.
Yeah, good for you.
Just because it's something different, it's just a challenge.
Yeah.
It's nothing's easy. Just to just throw in the towel.
Yeah.
And I also direct some choirs too.
What? Are you kidding me?
Not many people know that. Folks, this is why I'm single.
Okay, so tell us about that.
So I direct choirs, and I'll give you the quick version of that. So I direct a community choir called the Volunteers in Manchester. We're up to I think 46 members. It's out of the Elliott Hospital Associates, which is the one of the benefactor volunteer groups of the Elliott Hospital. Has had this group for 30, 40 years at this point, called the Volunteers, and it's a group of some older, some retired, and some old adults that are working still. We rehearse every week, and we go to 2 assisted living nursing homes a month singing a program. So because I do that, and I've done a church choir forever and ever and ever and ever, obviously, because that's what musicians do.
Oh, my God, man.
So in doing that, I also got hired to do and it's more of a music therapy thing, at 2 assisted livings on Wednesdays and Thursday mornings. So I go there for an hour. And again, it's a little chorus. We're singing the music of Rodgers and Hammerstein right now. And it's more like a music therapy thing, little chorus thing that I do. But yeah, so it's a lot.
You teach music too?
I have less students though. I have less students now. I cut back. Because I was teaching with the music school for a while, but I realized this fall I had to cut back. So I cut back to 10 students. So it's not too bad. But it's there's a lot going on, and I manage it because I maintain the same schedule, on Tuesday mornings, I have the Volunteers. On Wednesday mornings, I've got Londonderry. On Thursdays, I've got... And then I can go to Majestic, midday and work until whenever and get work done. But it's, but the good thing, too, what allows me to do all that stuff, too, is that, and I always say this, is that I have the greatest people working for me at Majestic. I have good directors that I hire, good teams of people. Karen, my development director, is great. So it's one of those things where I can manage and not have to physically be. My job is not supposed to be physically there all the time. Yeah. But I can manage, and I can go on vacation and take stuff with me and just check in and all that. So it's good. But so I do a lot of things that just like I said, busy, I just have to do less of what I'm doing. But what do you cut? It's like I'm going to cut the Wednesday morning senior.
You'll figure out something.
And that's
if
like
you
the
have
highlight.
A heart attack.
Well, and that's like that. Well, and that's why I'm on a diet actually. I just started though.
I was going to bring that up, but
did you see it on Facebook?
I did.
Yes, I finally decided that I. So, but who do you disappoint? But there'll come a time where I'm going to have to say. Like, for instance, the company that I work for on the Wednesday and Thursday mornings is an independent contractor doing the chorus. They just opened a new facility in Kingston, and they've already approached me about that. And I've said, I don't have another morning to give you. Because my thing is, I don't want to give I'll go there Monday or Friday mornings, and then it's the middle of summer, and I'm like, oh. Mm-hmm. So luckily, I have my Mondays and Fridays.
Well, how's your health?
I have good health.
Okay, so
I have good health.
It's not like...
My biggest thing with going on the diet was just, because of my schedule so bad, I've gotten really... extremely lax of what I'm eating and what I'm, and I had to, I just...
Pub food, a lot of pub food.
A lot of pub food, a lot of fast food, a lot of, I'm just going to get another Domino's pizza because it's right around the corner. But so what happened was, I was going to Florida, and you always have to make sure your suitcases aren't too heavy, right? Mm-hmm. So the easiest way to do that is you get on the scale, you weigh yourself, and then you get on the scale again and weigh yourself, hold the suitcase, and you know if it's over or not. I hope other people do this, because I've said this to a few people, and they kind of laugh at me. So I get my suitcases ready for Florida, and I stepped on the scale, and I looked down, and I went, that can't be right. So I get off, and I get back on, I'm like, 236 pounds, folks. 230. I'm like, okay, that's way too many pizzas. So I said, okay, I'm going to get their vacation.
And that's without your luggage. You didn't have any...
I didn't have my luggage in my hand. so I was
Dang,
like,
this coat is heavy.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm down, ripping my toenails off, my fingernails off. So I said, you know what, it's time. It's just to feel better. Because, you get to the point where I was like feeling like, it's like, you got to put your shoes on in the morning, you're like, Yeah. And I said, it's time to just... And I did South Beach diet many, many years ago, very successfully. And then I just let it get away from me again. So I said, I'm going to make... And I'm hardcore. I've been like, okay, very hardcore about it. And I just started. But I'm really committed, again, challenged to making it happen. So we'll see what happens in 3 weeks.
So you're sticking with South Beach, or have you done
I'm going to stick
paleo,
with...
keto?
No, there's so many different ones.
I
looked at, the keto, and I looked at... What's that new app, Noom or something?
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I have to just do something that's going to be easy. Tell me what I can and can't eat. Easy. Because I'm not going to gorge myself. I'm not going to gorge myself on lettuce. Yeah. I'm just not, So at least with South Beach, they spell it out very clearly of this is what you can't eat. So that's been very, very helpful. And it's actually... It just means planning ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay, what am I going to eat today? When am I going to eat? Stuff like that. And then and I know I'll lose. I'm already losing weight every day. So it's.
Do you buy their food, or do you just?
No. I just
use their diet.
I just use, and I found an app that I'm not even using the app, but it told me phase 1. This is what you can and can't eat.
So have you gotten rid of just started with
mostly
sugar
and carbs,
flour,
sugars and carbs, and stuff like that. So. And it's totally manageable. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get sick of it, but like I said, I'm dedicated enough to it. It just has to happen. Just only because I do keep a fast pace, and my health is good. So why do this? Why be like this for the 10 years, and then I start having all these health problems, and then it's just not worth it. So it's time to just back it up. So so I didn't, but I didn't do the whole half-naked picture on Facebook.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm like, I'm going to put the number once a week, but I'm not. You're not. And I did take a fully clothed picture when I first started. I don't want to go into Facebook jail because I, showing too much nip or something.
Okay, on
but
that.
It's hard because, like you said, I mean, I'm always on the road. I'm always fast food, or
it's terrible.
Well,
and you probably don't move much either if you're on the road a lot. You're sitting down to play. You're sitting down to do most of what you have to do. It's not like you're out running.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So it's so it'll be good. It's. Thanks for not bringing that up though. I was going to bring that up. I'll bring it up. I don't care. I'm fat, and it's okay.
I know the feeling. Well, I was up to 230 something.
Yeah.
At one point, I've lost. I'm down to 193.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's just again.
It's just eating habits.
Yeah.
And that's the
thing. Eat a little less.
Jesus. And that's what it. Honestly.
Eat a little less.
Seriously, it's awful. It's like I have a Domino's around the corner, and I'm not sponsoring Domino's because they have their own issues.
But they feel free to sponsor me.
You can sponsor Ratio if you want.
I'll
send
take
a check.
Yeah.
But I found out it's really easy just to order a carry-out pizza for $9 and take it home. Well, yeah, then you eat a whole damn large pizza by yourself, pizza and beer, and I'm like, I just can't do it.
I know.
So the last time I did that was the day before the diet. I'm like, it's going to be a pizza and beer night. It's going to be a while.
Did I? Where's my... I have to check my email. Did I get an invitation to that party?
No, I'm sorry. You didn't.
What?
I ate all the pizza, and I actually got one beer in and fell asleep. So.
Oh, you are old.
I am old. Yeah, I've been. Yeah.
Dang.
But no, it's just a matter of just changing routine. And I'll be honest, I've only been on the diet for a couple days, but my eating has been so much better. And but I actually feel better already just by just because I'm not putting all this junk in my...
Yeah.
So it'll be good, So, but if I could get down to below 200, I'd be happy. Yeah. I don't have to be... I'm not looking to be skinny when I'm, when I was I always say I was skinny once. I was 14, but I was skinny once, people see pictures of me like in high school. They're like, "Oh my God, that was you." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
that was." Now the two of those is me.
My
now.
twin brother, I killed him.
Yeah. So that's good.
All right, so let's talk about the Daddios.
Oh, the
Because
Daddios.
I love. I haven't seen them yet at Mohegan Sun's.
So I can tell you, we just got booked again for Mohegan Sun.
Damn you!
February.
Glad. I'm so
in
glad.
February.
Really?
Yes,
Good,
it's in February. I believe the date's going to be February 19th, but they change it sometimes. Because originally they gave us January, then they moved it to February. But yeah, so the Daddios.
Yeah. So tell me how I know Jim.
Okay.
And I've seen the Daddios.
So you've seen them as a quartet without the band.
Correct.
Okay.
It was all a cappella.
Yep.
So how did you get involved? Tell me about. Do you love going to Mohegan Sun? I mean, you have to. I mean, I would think it's just. You're playing to what, hundreds of people?
Yeah.
And the whole ambiance of. I had Jim in here a little while ago, and I talked to him about that too. Because this is like an actor's dream, to go from nothing to something. I mean, the Mohegan Sun, as far as I'm concerned, is
it's
a big
definitely
upgrade.
something. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I know it's not playing Fenway Park, but
Right.
So tell me about how you got involved.
So I know three of the guys. I knew. I originally knew Jim, Angelo, and Bo, and I knew them because when I did shows up in Concord with Irene DeShane.
Yep.
If you remember Irene.
Yes.
I met them doing shows with Irene DeShane. God rest Irene DeShane. We keep saying, "Oh, we wish she was still here doing shows," and it was one of those. We'd go and we'd rehearse, and we'd go to Margarita's every night after, and it was just such a great group of people to do shows with. So I met the three of them, and at one time the Daddios was just the three of them.
Oh, I didn't know.
And then years later they brought in Drew Seneca, who was the one who looks like Colonel Sanders. I hope he hears this. And they brought him in as another guitarist, and they became the quartet. And as you know, they perform everywhere. I mean,
Right.
every weekend they're somewhere.
Literally everywhere.
As a quartet. So what happened was that they were trying to get booked somewhere else. And there was one summer, I think they did Steel Hill Resort for a summer up in Sanborn, and Keith Belanger played for them. And then years later, they said that we really want to, I guess the way I understand it is, they really wanted to be at the casinos, but they said, we're not going to book you unless you have a band. So they put a band together. So they called, I believe they had reached out to Keith, he couldn't do it, so they reached out to me, and I said, I'm
you're
not doing anything. So I said, sure. I'm sure I could squirrel that away. So I started going up and rehearsing. Originally it was me, Whit, and Rick Page, keyboard, guitar, and bass, keyboard, bass, and drums. And we did our first gig at Mohegan Sun, and that was the goal. We were doing it for that, and it was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable experience, And I for me, again, it was a challenge because I've never really played in a band as a keyboard player. The challenge for me was it was something different than everything else I was doing. It was manageable because they were booking us dates way far in advance. And we were also rehearsing just a couple times and making it happen, so it wasn't too bad. And then from that, we started getting more gigs with the band. So now we're up to maybe half a dozen gigs a year. So it's not like tremendous.
Manageable.
I mean, they're like several dozen gigs a year with the four of them.
I know.
But with the band, we have about half a dozen gigs a year. So we started doing Mohegan Sun. We were doing it every 6 months, pretty much. They were booking us. And the good thing I like about that, again, because it was like, oh, okay, it meant clearing my schedule for a couple of days, but mini vacation, right? So what I would do is I would go to Mohegan Sun, and then I would swing back through Providence, Rhode Island to see friends on the way through. So I'll stay a couple of nights in Mohegan, then spend a couple in Providence, come home. So it was an opportunity for me to do something that was fun, while at the same time too, adding a little mini getaway as well to it, like when we're adjudicating. So over the years, we had a new drummer, we had a new bass player. We're in the process of going through. We're actually looking for a new drummer and a new bass player, which is interesting. And it's not been all. I mean, there's been times where I've anytime you get anybody, it's like a theater show. When you get people that work together that closely, there's bound to be some of this. And the Daddios, they do a great job, but there's times where they're like this with each other a little bit. And it's all in it, but they all have the same goal of it, making the best they can. So it's like it all, and nobody leaves mad. There was a couple of rehearsals where I was just like, all right, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore because it just got very tense. And
Well, it's like family fighting.
Well, that's
right?
what it was, and so it was funny because I remember Angela said, he's like, you didn't look. I said, yeah. I said, I have to admit I was ready to kind of just. So now the joke is, I'm like, well, I'm the last original band member, so I should get a silver jacket too.
That's right.
Joking with them, but I never. I'll be honest. It was a lot of fun, but it is work, and the other issue too that we have is that when they sing as a quartet, they do songs. They do a certain format of the songs. But with the band, it changes sometimes. Oh. So we have to be flexible enough to be like, oh, they're adding a chorus. Okay, we got to... So that's what makes it a little bit different in that. So a lot of times we spend our time saying, what was the format of this song? And I've tried to, streamline things and I write down a lot of things. So that gets a little frustrating sometimes. But overall, it's really fun. They're a great group of guys. They're great to play with and for. If you had asked me if I was going to be the last band member standing, I would have told you no, because I figured it was just going to be a couple times. But it's fun. It's definitely fun. And I'm glad they didn't book us for Mohegan Sun this last fall. That was the first. We've done it for like 3 years. So that was like the first fall we didn't get booked. And there's lots of speculation as to why. So recently, a couple weeks ago, they did call and we're booked for February, which is great to be back there. I will be honest, Mohegan Sun is... I feel they're feeling the pain of that new casino in Boston. So they're not as generous with the band members as they were. And the 4 guys still get the carte blanche package and all that, but they're not as generous with the band members, which is, but it's still very much worth doing. It's still a fun time. And if I look at, like I said, I go to Providence after, so really what I'm making on the gig, if I added it up, is I'm paying a lot more than I'm... but at the same time, too, you get the 2 nights at Mohegan Sun that they give you, and it's just fun.
So tell me about the experience of. So I have this in my image. You're coming out the concourse, the lights are all going. There's people out there cheering on as you're coming out. Is it that you get that?
Have you?
Because nobody does that in theater. Nobody's cheering you as the curtains are opening.
No. Have you been to Wolfsten and Mohegan Sun?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So Wolfsten's kind of like their smaller lounge in the center of like all the machines around it. It's a smaller venue, but it's still that feeling of just like you're basically just filling the whole casino with this music. And it's a great feeling in that you get there god early to do a sound check, and then you're kind of just hanging down the green room. And on the green room walls, it's like any other music venue. There's all these signatures of all the people that have appeared there. All these people, and you're like, and I couldn't even name a couple. I couldn't even name some of them, but it's all names that, I know. Oh, all these people and you're like, oh my God, I'm on the same stage as so-and-so was. And then you go out, and it's nervous. I have to admit, I don't get nervous very often, but I'm a little in tune with, like, I'm very focused on what I'm doing, because the other issue too is that, the arrangements they do of the songs don't always match the sheet music. And I'm a sheet music person. At least give me a chord sheet or something. So I have to mark up the music, and I have to, sometimes it's like, I can't get your song in the key you're doing it in, so I got to transpose the keyboard down. And, so it's one of those things where it's a little nerve-wracking, but the good thing is I was telling the guys, because they did the show at Majestic last August, that was one of the best things we've done. And the audience members were like, when are you having a big game? And even the guys were like, God, you have the best audiences, because they were in tune, they were singing along, so we're going to book them again for May of next year. But it's getting to, and I said to the guys after, I said, for the songs that we've done now for a while, I'm feeling better about just knowing how they go. So I can not call it in, but be a little more into it. Mm-hmm. But it's still fun, and it's like, it's just something different, It's different than everything else that I do, and they keep it pretty low commitment. Like, typically we'll rehearse 2 or 3 times before a gig. The Majestic gig, we had the Majestic gig, then we had a gig up at Laconia, Rotary Park up in Laconia right after that. So we rehearsed for those. This is a song set for those 2 gigs. It'll be a little bit of a challenge in January, because we're going to have a new drummer again and a new bass player. And that's tough, because the keyboard's great, but it's the drums really that's helping keep everything going. So, and I know they'll find good people, and we'll be, when we lost the original bass player and the original drummer, I was like, oh crap. But we got 2 people that were equally good.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just a matter of just finding those people and all that.
So
but,
how many shows do you do at Mohegan on a typical?
It's one show. It's a 2-set show.
That's it.
Yep. So it's like so when we go there, it's like it used to be a Monday, which was actually better than now. Now it's a Wednesday. They have a thing called Forever Young, and I guess it's something that they do every single week for that day. They have specials for people over a certain age and AARP, all that stuff. But so it used to be a Monday, which was perfect because you could make a weekend of it. But now it's a Wednesday, so it's a little bit more difficult, which is one reason why the original drummer had a little bit of an issue with it because it's hard for me to just leave for like 2 days midweek.
Right.
But yeah, so we typically do a show where it's usually a noon show. We do a 45-minute set, break, 45-minute set. But so
you're like out by like 4 in the afternoon. You're done.
Rest of the day, yeah. Rest of the day to just hang out at the resort and do your thing, and yeah,
gamble away the money you just.
I don't gamble. I not because I'm like morally superior or anything.
You give yours to Domino's.
I give mine to Domino's. But no, I don't. I don't. So for me, it's just what kills me at Mohegan Sun, honestly, and there's more great restaurants that you can eat at, and Krispy Kremes, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to like rate this in before February.
Yeah.
But what does it for me is there's a pub there that has 35 beers on tap. And so it's like, and how many of those are IPAs? 20. And I'm like, So that's why they always joke with me because I have to really regulate the night before. Like we get there on like a Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. We have sound check at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. the next morning. And I'm like, the first couple of gigs I was like, why am I doing this?
Rockers are crazy.
And that's what I felt like, the rockers. I partied all night, and then so I learned to regulate after that. But it's good. On the second night, all bets are off.
So now you get up the next day and you're like, "Where's my walker?"
Yeah, where's my walker? So, and that's the other thing too is that they provide. Mohegan provides all the equipment.
Really?
They provide all the backline, the keyboards, the drums. I just got to show up my iPad. I did start bringing a smaller keyboard because they have this Kurzweil keyboard that just doesn't have it's doo-wop music, so it's a lot of like organ sounds and vibraphone, and so I have this little Roland keyboard that's like 30 years old. I can't kill the thing, but it has all the sounds I use for the Daddios. So what I do is I use that and I double tier it. So I'm using the bottom keyboard for the piano and then using the upper keyboard first. So I bring that keyboard now, but I just started doing that only because I realized that without the ability to do vibraphone on one song, electric piano on one song, Rhodes on one song, organ on one song, different sounds, everything starts to sound the same because it's the same progression. Right. So that's why I bring the other keyboard. It helps. But even that, it's small enough to just carry right in. But yeah, the drum set, everything they provide.
Wow. So how long is each set?
45 minutes to the minute. They're very strict there about going over.
Really?
Yeah. Because what happens, they want people to go and gamble the machine for the 15 minutes in between.
Gotcha.
So you do the 45-minute set, they go gamble, they come back for the second set. Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. So they're very strict. So it's funny because when they played Majestic, we were like, I said, you don't have to worry about time on us. Just do your set. If it lasts, and I think the first set lasted like a little under an hour because we were just a little more relaxed as far as.
So is each set different, or are they the? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 2 different sets. So we probably have 40 or 50 songs that we do, and each set has about probably 13 to 15 songs depending on the song.
Yeah.
And there's certain things, because the other thing too with the doo-wop songs is they're really short. So a lot of times we're doing the extended version of this, adding a chorus, it's like anything else. There's certain songs we play that I'm just like, I'm gonna act like I love this song, but I really don't like to play it. No different than the piano bar, no different than a theater show. I mean, there's shows Majestic produces, I'm like, it's a great show. I have no urge to want to direct it. I just don't. This is not my thing. But I have other people that do it.
Audiences love it, right? So
audiences love it. So they, and so I get someone who's a good fit for that show. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's definitely fun. And Mohegan's great. We did Mohegan. We've done a bunch of shows up in Laconia at different events because that's where they're based out of, and that's been a lot of fun. A couple private parties, those have been fun. So it's. But the thing is, obviously if they hire the 4 guys, it's cheaper than the whole band. So the whole band is usually the when they're willing to pay a little more for the whole band. But it's fun, and like I said, I've known Jim and Angelo and Bo forever and love working with them. Drew and I sometimes, hi Drew, we do this a little bit sometimes. But it's not, we never leave it is what it is. And even him and we're finally starting to get each other, which is good. So, and it's funny because that's always a joke because he's the one right in front of me, the daddy. And Jim keeps saying, "We can just switch sides. You can be behind me." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe maybe it's time." But like it's like anything else. People are so passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah,
they're gonna ruffle, and it is what it is. And I'm not saying I never get ruffled because I get ruffled. It's.
Well, you get tired sometimes, you just, and there's, each individual person is a little bit different, and they have different beliefs, different structures, different things that,
Well, even like as a director, there's all these companies now, but it's hard to get directors to do big musicals now. Directors, especially the really good directors, they've done the big musicals. They don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. It's too much. It's just too much. So that's the hard thing is finding directors for the big musicals. Like when I'm directing for Majestic, an adult show, like I'm doing James right now, I'm directing the kids. I always do, and I'm directing Fiddler, so I'm doing a couple of the kids shows. That's easy. It's easy. The kids are great. Parents are going to love what you do, no matter what it is. They're going to love seeing their kid. Sure. Kids are going to have a good experience. But with the adult shows now, I tend to direct. If I direct at Majestic, normally it's because I have a show that I don't have a director for, but it's the smaller shows. Like last year I did Plaza Suite. I directed Neil Simon's Plaza Suite, and it was like each scene, the 3 acts is like 2 or 3 people. It was perfect. Yeah. It was perfect. I had such a great time doing it. And I did cast, and it's easier to, if you have that actor that gets a little emotional or this, it's easier to kind of bring it back down.
Right.
We should have a music. Remember Titanic? How many people we had?
I was just
like
going to
70
bring that
people.
up. Yes. So we did the one up in Jeans, and it was an ensemble.
Yeah, because they rewrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got some people, well, a lot of people, I didn't have to, but who are playing 3 roles.
Yeah. See, what they did with that was they rewrote. Usually, it's funny because usually they expand the cast.
Right.
But this one they wrote. Was it the ensemble version?
Yes.
It's the same exact show. It's just written for 12 actors.
Yeah. It's the handful.
But I want to do. I definitely want to do Titanic again. But I'll do the full one when I do it. Yeah, I'll do the full one again.
Baby.
Yeah, I definitely want to do it again. It's been a while.
Well,
because Majestic did it, and then Concord was like 2000
please don't.
7 or 8 or something. I think.
I don't have a date. I don't.
No, it was before that because it was before I started doing piano bars. So it was probably 2005 or something. 2004, 2005.
I have such vivid memories of it.
Yeah.
The doors down at the bottom where they're sliding in and out, and you're pulling. Oh my God!
Craig's set, which was amazing.
It was
the doors open.
I couldn't believe the furnace. Then the ballrooms coming out.
Yeah.
The deck way up top. Brilliant.
It's it's definitely one of my good memories of, and that was the last big show I did for Concord.
Yeah.
I think after that was when Jim did City of Angels, I did like a walk-on role. But other than that, I hadn't done anything in Congress since Summers of Foot.
Yeah.
It was nice to be back. It's a nice camaraderie there.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's
it's
funny. I go back every now and then. I forget what I just did. I didn't say just did, and they're like, "Well, welcome." Nobody knew me.
Yeah.
I had done like so many shows. I go back down. They're like, I'm so and so. Nice to meet you. Have you been here before? Let me show you around. I'm like, no, it's okay.
Yeah, it's like with me. Jim knows that I've directed there in Alwyn, and as far as the good thing about Seams of Foot too is I got to work with a lot of people that I never got to work with on stage. Like Wally was in it. Wally Pino, he was in the cast, and he did lights for Titanic when we did it. John Conlon, who's done a lot of stuff, and I loved John's stuff on stage. He was in it. I got to work with him. So I think so. That was a good thing too. Is I felt like Something's Afoot. The players was those like me that have been around for a good amount of time. Those like Walling and John have been a long time, and then some of the new generation people, and it just really just made for. I was sad when that show ended, and I'm always like, there's another show, another show. I was so sad. I was like in withdrawal. I'm so sad that show was done because it was just fun people. Because the thing is too is bringing up the Irene shows. They were good shows, but it was the fun people that made it worth it.
I know.
Who wants to do a show with a bunch of crap heads?
Well, that's what I liked about 1944, the big band.
Right, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, first, second, and third time.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do the fourth one.
Oh, man, I know.
That was the one that she had put it on Memorial Weekend, and I'm like, I'm a piano cabaret person. I am giving up my Memorial Weekend working up at the piano bar. But, yeah.
Boy, but that had a lot of talent in it.
Because you did the New Thalian one, the ones at Notre Dame too, right?
No.
Oh, you did the audio ones.
Only at the audio.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, that was God, shows.
I know.
There's so many shows over so many.
Oh my God, they stretched us. So what's on the horizon? What's coming up? Are you morphing into anything? You cutting back anything? You got anything that you want to do or trying to do or would love to do?
I think that, this season with Majestic is going to be a very telling season. I think that I can see us using the studio theater more.
Yeah.
Maybe the opera house a little less after this year. We'll see. It's very much, we'll see what happens.
It's a heavy schedule.
It is a heavy schedule, but, part of it's because the youth and teen programs have really grown to where, we're just bursting on that. And with the extra studio theater, we're trying to add those extra shows. But the good thing about, some of the shows we pick, for instance, Lovesick is a bunch of smaller scenes. It's a smaller cast. We can do stuff like that in that venue. So I think that this year, it'll be a very telling year at the theater, trying to find out, and obviously getting excited for the 30th year and figuring out what do we want to bring back, what do we want to do that's new. Piano bar stuff, I still, I have cut back on private gigs. I don't do half as many as I used to. I remember.
Did you say private gigs?
Yeah.
So hang on. So you did not mention private. So, let's get choirs, piano.
My mother's gonna watch this and she's gonna agree with you and be like, okay, So I used to do all these private gigs in the summer. That was every Saturday I was playing somewhere. And
like a wedding
summer,
or something, you mean? Or
just some of the condo communities and stuff
barbecues.
like that. Summer barbecues, stuff like that. And I've gotten better in that past year. I took one. I didn't take any others. So I've cut back on that. So, but even with the piano bar, it's I love what I do, but I see myself cutting back a little bit on that moving forward. Just not playing as many nights, still being very present, but, right now I do all the scheduling for the piano players. I coordinate them, put them into slots, and that's
for the piano bar?
For the piano bar. It's a little bit of a challenge.
He schedules too.
So I took that over from someone else, and it's funny because when that guy did it, I was sometimes a pain in the ass, and now I'm doing it. And he's like, "Remember?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah. I said, "You want the job back?" He's like, "No." So it's a bit of a challenge, but I can see myself cutting back a little bit in the piano bar, and just I've gotten better. Like this year, this winter, we're looking at the slots, going, "Oh, it's kind of." We have to fill all this, and I was like, I am not going to play the Saturdays. I'm not going to do it. So I've gotten better.
Friday
I do the Fridays,
the
and I'll do occasional Thursdays, so I'll cut back. So I'll cut back on that some. The choirs, the thing is, as a musician, and it's no different as an actor, you don't want to say no to gigs because you never know what you're not going to get. When are you going to have that dry spell? And I actually, to a fault, I've kind of, I'll take that on just so that, the choir volunteers takes the summer off. But yeah, but for instance, volunteers takes the summer off. That's my busy time at the piano bar. So it's manageable. The assisted living, there's going to come a point where budgetary or whatever, it is what it is, and it's, so I can see myself, but I think if I were to have one thing that I would love to just be able to stop and just smell the roses and do would be, like I said, with that musical that I remember the day that I had written we produced it in 92. And I have the script, and I'm just like, I just gotta go through it again and make
set it on the kitchen table
and make it more mature. Just elevate it, because it's music. The whole thing's music, straight beginning to end, and just
all music you wrote.
All music, yep.
That you wrote.
Yep. Yeah. It's
impressive.
Full length show, all in, and it's just a matter of just going through and going. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this. So that'll be nice, and then between everything else. I always, and also too, if I ever become not single again, available, gay.
He's not available.
But
there's no time.
No, I have said, I always said, I said, someday when I get a boyfriend or a husband again, I never had a husband, not my own anyway, but we just went PG-13.
Yes, we did.
But I always say that if I were to meet somebody, because I made that mistake in my early 20s of not prioritizing I said that's when it's going to be bad for everything that I do, because that's when it's going to be time to say, okay, I'm not going to be out of the house every night. Right. I'm going to cut back and do Majestic. Majestic will always be there, and then do less of all these other things that I do. And I think that probably would be
tough, David. But I mean, I get it.
Yeah, but it's but even with rehearsals, I mean, when you're rehearsing a show, it's you do it, and then when you're finally done, you love it. But when you're finally done, you're like, oh my God, I have a night off. like
It
this
just
week.
recently happened.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I said to my wife, I go,
what are we going to do?
yes.
Yeah.
I said, there's hours available here.
Yeah.
Hours. You don't think about it, but...
It's like this weekend I have rehearsals and I have my church gigs on Saturday and Sunday, but I have Saturday night off. Sunday I have church in the morning and I have the rest of the day off. Now, I'll probably work from home and work on a Majestic brochure or something. But just the idea that I'm like, I don't have anything to do and I can't have beer. So it's going to be really bad. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do. But you know what I mean? Once in a while, and that's even with the Gun Quit, as much as I love playing the Thursday, Friday, Sundays, when we get to the point after Columbus Day where we cut the Sundays, I'm like, I have Sunday nights off. This is great.
Man.
And it's just nice to have that stop and breathe moment.
It's going to feel really good for the first week or two, and then you're going to be like, how can I fill this? This is an awful void.
No, that's not. It's funny. The Sunday nights, I've gotten good about just saying, I'm just going to get ready for the week and just kind of...
You know what I have found is that with some of the spare time, which is really nice, I get now to go see stuff.
Right.
And there's so many friends doing so many shows, which I can't get to do when you're in one.
Yeah.
Because they're overlapping. So I actually found myself looking at my schedule going, I could go see that show this weekend.
I think that's the other issue with all the companies that we talked about at the beginning of this, is that we're all so busy doing our own theaters and our own shows, we never have time to see other stuff, which is why Theater Wars is good too, because you start to see what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get I know was it Actors Singers Fringe did Cannibal the Musical, never comes around. And I had seen Angelica, the director. She says, well, just come on a dress rehearsal if you want. I'm like, I want to see it. And it just came across my feed again for some reason a week ago, and I went, that was a month ago. I missed it. How did I miss this?
I did the same thing with Katie Collins. I think she just had a second
in the
show.
Hat Box.
Yeah. Yes. I was doing stuff up in jeans, and I'm like, no, I'll get there. I'll make it.
Yeah.
Life came, interfered that weekend I was going to do it, couldn't get there. Now she just did this other one, I forget the name of it, The Love Loss or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to see it either.
Well, you can come see Katie, and she's in Judy's Scary Little Christmas.
She is?
Yes.
Well,
that's an all-star cast.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'll love to come. I'll come see it.
Yeah. That's the first weekend of December.
Post it on Facebook.
Unless you're doing a Christmas Carol somewhere.
I have been tapped.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's only 27 productions of it happening in the first 3 weeks of November. Hey, and I always say, if that's what the theater's tradition is, good for them. And I always say, and I know people, it's not a Palace thing, folks. I always say, I hear great things about the Palace's Christmas Carol. They make it better every single year. Yeah. And I always tell people, go see Christmas Carol at the Palace and then come to the Majestic to see what we're doing, because we're doing Elf the Musical. And it's just something different,
That's great.
So it's, but yeah, nothing against the people that do Christmas Carol. But I always laugh.
I know.
There's just so many of them.
It's like Annie.
Yeah.
Every group is doing Annie at some point, It's terrible. Mamma Mia last year.
Mamma Mia was last year, yep.
My God, I got so tired of seeing Mamma Mia pop up. But every group wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And people loved it.
Honestly, we were going to do it until we heard Actors Singers was going to do it. It was on their schedule. My philosophy for 30 years has been, before I announce my season, if I see a show on someone else's schedule in this area, I'll take it off my schedule.
Yeah, good for you.
I mean, it's not always the same courtesy is not always afforded to us.
Yeah.
Which is why if you see we're doing a show and someone else is doing it, then they've put it on their schedule after we announced. But no, I'm always big. And we were going to do Mamma Mia. That was going to be the Jekyll and Hyde slot.
Okay.
And then we said, nope, they're doing it right around the same time. That would not be fair.
Yeah.
And we could do it. We could have cast it. We could have. But why would we do that?
You probably would have got a good draw too.
Why would we do that? So it's so we did Jekyll and Hyde. And honestly, Jekyll and Hyde was another show I hadn't done forever and ever and ever. And I was like,
I heard it went well.
Yeah, it was great production. People came. It was so. So it's all good.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, brother.
And there you go. Another great one in the tank. That one's going off to the memorial. Have a great day.